Sports Network.
All right, well, the biggest tease in the NFL is over. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Yeah. We thought Matthew Stafford of the Rams were going to go make up, get a contract done. And Perloff, we can talk about what it means for the Rams and Stafford, but that's not really the interesting part. The interesting part is what does this mean for everyone else in the NFL? And by that I mean the teams who were in hot pursuit of Matthew Stafford, but then also the rest of the quarterbacks, because the combine just happened over the weekend, and it wasn't that awesome for the QBs. Nobody really staunchly put themselves in that first round and raise their stock that much. Right. Now, there could be guys who do go in the first round outside of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, but no slam dunk. So the biggest domino that will fall because Stafford went back to the Rams is what to you?
Well, you just sort of hinted at it. For me, the biggest domino, specifically the Las Vegas Raiders, but all these teams that didn't get Stafford, it is a barren desert of quarterback options out there, Maggie. So look at the Raiders. Yeah. After Stafford is reportedly re-signing with the Rams, Mike Silver, our buddy, tweets that they're going after now, or they're interested in Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold. That's the Raiders. So you fall from Matt Stafford to Russell Wilson to maybe Sam Darnold you have to pay for. I think there's no good options after Stafford. He was sort of it. And then you go into the draft. The problem with the draft, as you just mentioned, there's only two guys. So you have 5 teams are vying for a pool of basically 2 guys. It is a mess, and I have no idea. As positive as all this Tom Brady Raiders stuff is, where are they getting their quarterback? And this, you could say the same thing about the other teams that were interested in Stafford and didn't get him. It just feels like a really kind of a tough situation.
Yeah, the Raiders and the Giants specifically, who were super high on Matthew Stafford, and even the Raiders, him going to Montana and meeting with Brady and Tom Brady, and whether that was planned or whether it was happenstance, led to NFL insiders fighting it out at a Starbucks in Indianapolis.
Amazing.
Yeah, still an awesome story. But
it's an all-time story, right?
It's great. But here's the thing, right? Like,
come on, man.
If I'm the Raiders, if I'm the Giants, I think I still feel okay. At least I have the 3rd overall pick. I mean, like, globally, I don't feel great about the Giants because they've stunk for the last 10 years. Hey, Manny. But if I feel like okay, because at least I have that 3rd pick. If I am trying to trade up to 1, or if I need to trade up to 2, I'm not going so far that I feel like I'm mortgaging my future. The Raiders, on the other hand, you're sitting there at 6, so you either have to really trade to get up to get one of these QBs, or Shedeur Sanders falls to you at 6, which is now a new thing coming out of the combine, that somehow Shedeur, who didn't do one exercise, did not break a sweat, somehow his stock is falling. I have no idea how that would happen. He didn't do anything. This has got to be a smokescreen. But is there a reason he's falling, right? You wonder yourself, if you're the Raiders, he's sitting for us right here at 6. I'm looking around. No one's even here. No one even wants to trade up. Uh-oh. Is there a reason?
Well, wait. One thing, when we say falling, it's not really falling because we don't know what the teams were thinking in the first place. It's a media perception.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not buying it.
Right. Well, the thing is, there's no falling at the combine, or we were just assuming that he might be in play for number 2 overall to Cleveland. Now that
I think he still is.
Well, it's funny, but the reporting, you're right. It does seem like a sea change where people are like, oh, I think people got to Indy and everybody, all the GMs and the personnel people said, oh, Shedeur is not viewed that way by the NFL. I think that's what happened. I think new information came to a lot of the reporters, and that means to me, I think Shedeur will be available to the Raiders. Actually, I took the bait. I think.
Okay.
I see what you're saying. Right. We don't know for sure. But he did have a big hand size. He had 9 3/8. So
I know that was all you were paying attention.
Oh my God! Shedeur is not a huge guy, but he's got big hands. So that's interesting. I kind of buy it. I think he will be there for the Raiders.
Okay, great. But again, is there a reason? We had talked last week about, one of the noted draft nicks, not a guy who does mock drafts, but just someone who studies film, and that's Greg Cosell, who's thought that Shedeur kind of profiled like a Geno Smith, just not as big. Didn't see this guy who's generational, once in a lifetime type of talent.
Well, I think you would take a Geno Smith at number 2 overall in this era right now. These teams, which start out, they need competent quarterback play. And I think Shedeur is perfectly fine. He's good. I think he could easily be not a top 5 quarterback, but a top 12 quarterback. And that's all you could get. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm jumping on that right now. But it's interesting. You think this is possibly a smokescreen because you have these teams, Tennessee 1, Cleveland 2, New York Giants 3. They all need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And Cleveland desperately needs a quarterback. And now it doesn't seem like the buzz has Shedeur falling below that 2 spot.
Yeah, and I actually think Tennessee, they definitely need a quarterback.
Well,
You're going to run this thing back with Will Levis, there could be a mutiny. I mean,
Yeah.
And listen, Cam Ward has, it seems, kind of maybe separated himself
According to
the,
reports,
as the top pick, and maybe you get a big haul for him. But again, who's playing quarterback for you?
Well, I think, I know. The most simple explanation is Cam Ward, who did come out of the combine really smelling good.
Yes, he didn't do anything either.
Everyone's into Cam Ward. He probably goes number 1 to the Titans or a team that trades into that spot. So, yeah, I mean, as far as the draft goes, then it's where does Shedeur land? There just aren't enough quarterbacks. I think that's why that report came out that teams were offering $100 million for Matt Stafford. I think the Giants and the Raiders probably did that because, I don't know where they're going to get their guys. The Raiders would be lucky if Shedeur fell to them because otherwise, what are they? They're looking at Russell Wilson? Come on.
Yeah, Russ and Sam Darnold. By the way, the Steelers are still saying we want to re-sign either Russ or Justin Fields.
Right.
Like, guys, you can't have 2 more opposite quarterbacks. Like, what is that report all about? I don't understand. Like, well, maybe we'll have vanilla ice cream and maybe we'll take fish food. They did it last year. It's not the same.
They did it last year.
Well, that kind of fell in their laps. Now they're making a choice, Anyway, so as far as dominoes now that fall because Matthew Stafford has re-signed with the Rams, I'll give you one. I think this is good news for 2 older quarterbacks who are coming off of Achilles tears recently. This is now very good news for Aaron Rodgers, and I think this is good news for Kirk Cousins.
Very specific subset right there.
It's niche. But for Rodgers, I didn't think he was going to have a very big market to begin with, but now we're hearing reports that the New York Giants might be interested. He might not even have to move houses. He could just stay in the New York area. Brittany with an I must be thrilled about this if they're still dating. But for Rodgers and then for Kirk Cousins, who the Falcons are saying is definitely coming to the season as the backup, Michael Penix is our guy, and they owe Kirk Cousins like a $12 million bonus or something very, very soon, like in the next week and a half. So a team that might say, listen, now we know Kirk's shoulder was hurt. We didn't know that last year. Everyone was keeping a secret, or Kirk was keeping a secret. Maybe with a healthy Kirk Cousins, we can make that work. So I think those 2 older guys, let alone Darnold, he's kind of in a different category, but those 2 older guys specifically just got a lot better looking because Stafford is now off the market. Right,
but look, is that really good for Aaron Rodgers and for Kirk Cousins to be the number 1 option for the New York Giants? I mean, they were 3-14. Reportedly, Stafford said no way to the Giants. Like, he was interested in the Raiders, probably because Tom Brady was there, but he didn't even want to start a discussion with the Raiders. Why would Aaron Rodgers at 41 want to add himself to a 3-14 team? This seems on the surface like a really bad idea.
Well, you want to go be a backup to Brock Purdy? Like, I don't have a lot of good options for you if you want to start. Well, he could retire, but if he doesn't want to, then he should go play.
Even if it's a bad team. No, you say that, but like, think about it. Like, you could go out looking really bad, even worse than last year if you're on a really bad team.
Well, I think athletes are delusional a little bit. They'll say, I'll turn it around.
But Tom Brady,
they haven't seen me yet.
The GOATs like Tom Brady and even Favre to some extent, they left on, Favre had a bad last year, but they left on good teams. Like Brady went to a sort of a 500-ish Bucs team. I just think this Giants team is way far away. And I did read all the Aaron Rodgers. It makes sense. Yes, he is way more attractive now. I totally agree with that. But like from his standpoint, it's like, okay, this is my option.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? You haven't played that well.
I know.
That just can't be choosers, Pearl.
That's exactly
I
it.
know.
And if you want to keep doing
wrong.
McAfee, and if you want to keep being, you, the full Aaron Rodgers, well, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. So, he's going to have to make that decision, but I think he definitely still wants to play. And I think Kirk Cousins definitely wants to play too.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to be a backup.
Cousins has Bridge written all over him. Like there's so many teams. Again, they're like, all right, well, we're going to get an older Bridge quarterback and we're going to draft a guy. But there's just not enough guys to draft. Like the Bridge quarterbacks, yes, you could get a Kirk Cousins. it's a mess. It's a mess. And I think that's why the Giants and the Raiders were all in on Stafford, because the options are not great. And there's a lot of pressure. The other thing, too, is like, what happened to a rebuild? Like, when did the Raiders and the Giants, like, why aren't they allowed to slowly rebuild? Why do they have to go in on a Matthew Stafford this year? There's so much pressure to win quickly.
Well, I mean, I can tell you why for both teams. It's pretty obvious. Number one, both of the Giants' GM and coach are staring down the barrel.
True.
They are going to be fired if they don't do something quick, which is so ridiculous because they're going to be making these huge decisions now for a team, and they might be fired by Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then for the Raiders, at least everything they're saying, Pete Carroll, want to win right away. They are feeling themselves in Las Vegas, and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's two unhealthy situations. One, the Giants making short-term decisions to save the GM's job. I know you hate that.
Oh, I do.
And then the Raiders have a 70-something-year-old coach and a team that is designed for a young coach. So this is going to be real dicey. I don't know. I think the best solution is the Raiders draft Shedeur Sanders at number 6 and salvage this whole thing. But then I don't know what the other teams do.
Can we just look at this from a 30,000-foot view also? How are we light on quarterbacks? You guys can stay in college for forever. One guy's been there, Tyler
Shuck.
Tyler Shuck from Louisville, started at Oregon, went to college for 7 years. He's Van Wilder. How are you still not great?
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying, guys.
You're saying he should develop in 7 years? He should be good by the time he gets out?
I'm just wondering, where are the good quarterbacks? You guys, get all the advantages. The training is elite.
No, I see.
So everyone wants to be the quarterback, and I know last year we had 6. So
we had 6 last year. We're in an unprecedented drafting, and you're going to have 20 quarterbacks drafted just on the first round.
Everyone's 6'2". It's like 6'1", 6'2". Where are all of our guys? Where are the dudes? Where's the 6'4" dude? He's just gone.
I mean, quarterbacks are more productive, and they throw the ball. Even the guys who got bad reviews throwing the combine, they throw the ball better than the guys 30 years ago. They're just, the bar is too high. That's what I'm saying. These teams, you think in 1978, guys could throw Will Howard and Dylan Gabriel?
No, they were handing the ball off.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, honest, you spent 5 years in college at a high level. You should be able to throw the ball a little bit. Shouldn't you not? You're in the minor leagues for 5 years.
Well, right. But you're not good enough to go pro. That's why you're in the minor leagues. If you were good enough, you'd already be in the pros. Right. In the NBA, it's even worse. If you get to your second year of college basketball, there's something terribly wrong with you. So no team wants you. No, I understand what you're saying. Where are the quarterbacks? But listen, a lot of them are not eligible right now. Next year's class is going to be much better.
Love to hear from our Raider fans out there at 855-212-4227. Now what? All right, Tom. What do you got now? It's Tom.
I kept reading Tom. Everyone has new respect for the Raiders. But the truth is, Tom's in a tough spot there. There's no easy answers. You're digging out from a lot of personnel problems.
Yeah, I love this from Terry in our chat, youtube.com/Infinity Sports. He goes, 7 years in college, you better be Peyton Manning. I agree.
But that is so dumb. Get out of here.
I mean,
Peyton Manning was a
sophomore rounder, but sheesh.
You're saying so Cam Rising is going to come out and be Aaron Rodgers because he's in his 8th year at Utah?
I mean, he's got basically broken every bone in his body. But, I think so. 855-212-4227. So for the Raiders, what should they do here? Are you drafting a young guy? Because, again, that's not Pete Carroll's timeline. Right? Pete Carroll saying, win now, win now. All right, well, Shedeur Sanders.
But Shedeur's not that young.
You got to be you have to understand you got a rookie QB here.
But he's not that young. He's 23, right? Yeah, he's 23. He'll be fine. It's kind of like Jaden Daniels. He's actually a lot older than some. He's a year and a half older than Anthony Richardson already.
Yeah, we have some update on that quarterback competition as well. Buckle your seatbelts, everybody. 855-212-4227. So Matthew Stafford goes back to the Rams, and now the dominoes start to fall. The Raiders need help. The Giants need help. The Jets need help. Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Browns.
Cleveland needs a quarterback. I mean, what'd you say? It's a barren wasteland?
It's a barren wasteland of experience. Well, yes. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is now a shiny object as you described him.
Yep.
I think for these bad teams, that's a short-term solution that's not going to lead to anywhere.
855-212-4227. Just getting started here on this Monday. Got a lot to react to from a really crazy sports weekend. The Combine was in full effect. We had a dirty play in the NBA that led to a flagrant one that you've got to know about. So much to do. It's Maggie and Perloff Show, 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. You know, it was kind of a little bit of a disappointment. We did our show on Friday, and then right afterwards, the Matthew Stafford to the Rams thing just happened, and it was just kind of flat. Like, all that drama, then just a tweet from the Rams. Hey, he's coming back. I'm like, he's coming back. We just spent 2 weeks doing his negotiation for him in public. It was one of those ones, kind of like Brandon Ayuk last year, like all this buzz, and then he just goes back. You know what's interesting, though? We did not get the money from the Rams. I have not seen that anywhere.
No, the rumor is it's like in the 40s.
Right, and he got offered reportedly about $100 million guaranteed for 2 years from the Giants and the Raiders.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're Matthew Stafford, you would take less money to be on a better team and not move your family.
I would think so. I mean, especially at this stage in his career, the guy's made like generational wealth.
$364 million. I have it pulled up. He's the second highest paid quarterback of all time behind Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, yeah, I'm not moving to New York for a couple shekels so I can, get destroyed behind an offensive line that may or may not be a sieve.
Also,
no thanks.
Aaron Rodgers is number one all time. He doesn't need any more money. Like,
I think Rodgers is a little different. We already saw him give back money with the Jets. Like, I think he just wants to play. I think there's something about Rodgers, not to play a little armchair psychologist here, but I think this is going to sound a little unfair. But, he's still single guy. It's not like he's got a bunch of kids running around. I think he's like the guy at work whose social life, revolves around the office. I think that's kind of him. And that's fine. I'm not hating on it. I just think he gets a lot of his identity from still being a football player.
He's not like Billy in accounting who's like, let's get drinks on Friday afternoon.
I think he is.
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
If I were him.
It's like, I got some literature in my car about lizard people that will change your life. It's like, uh-oh. I'm busy from now for forever.
You're saying like he has to work with someone to get them to listen to him, basically? So here's the thing about Rodgers. He's made so much money. He should play for the bare minimum and then say, use that cap space to get me receivers. And I always thought LeBron should play. All these older guys should say, I'll play for $1 million because the branding they get from winning a title would be huge. So, and that's why Stafford leaving never made sense. They don't need the money.
No, I mean, far be it for us, but it feels like if you have $360 million in the bank, have some choices.
There's so much more value to being on a good team. Like, why would you get beat up? Like, you can't get that money, you can't get that year back.
Let's go to the phones. 855-212-4227. The domino effect of Stafford going back to the Rams means the Raiders are SOL. Eddie's in Arizona. Eddie, what do you think? Where do the Raiders turn for a quarterback?
Hi, Maggie and Perloff. Good morning. Love your guys' show.
Thanks.
The Raiders, I feel like if they get Sam Darnold as a veteran presence, draft Jackson Dart for the second pick, first get Janty at number 6 overall, move up to get Jackson Dart, I think that would be a good way to move forward.
Okay.
Wait. Sorry, where are you taking Jackson Dart? In the first round or second round?
Well, I believe Jackson Dart will be a late first-round pick, so they're going to have to move up.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you like Janty, the running back at 6, and then you sign Sam Darnold and then take a flyer on somebody. Listen, it's not a terrible plan.
Right.
Eddie, I don't hate it. The question, here's my thing about Sam Darnold and the Raiders. I know this is like a little flimsy, but just go with me. He doesn't seem like a Brady kind of guy. I can't imagine now maybe Pete Carroll is a former USC coach. He didn't coach Darnold. But maybe there's a relationship there because they're both connected to USC and maybe Carroll vouches for him. I just can't imagine Brady loving Darnold.
I could see them being super bros. They're both California guys. They're both from the same part of the world. I feel like they'd be good friends.
Yeah, but I don't know if Brady... I don't know if Brady, Eddie, thank you, and not a terrible plan.
I like that. By the way, he got me excited.
Yeah, no, that's
fun. Get Genty on there because they need a running back badly.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a luxury piece, though, when you really need offensive and defensive line.
That's true.
But, okay, that's fine. Let's go with it. It'll be fun. But I wonder if Brady, does he respect the Sam Darnold journey, right? Bad situation in New York. then goes to Carolina, still a bad situation, kind of rehabs his image with the 49ers. Like, does Brady respect that, or does Brady look at Darnold and think, you've been in the league for this long, and we're still having trouble sometimes with some of the easy stuff?
I don't think he would respect how Darnold played in that playoff game, and I don't think he would respect some of the brain farts that Darnold has even in games they win.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like,
It doesn't seem like a Brady guy.
Yeah, I don't think that he would think he's very good.
Well, maybe not, but I do think he would get along with it. I think they're, like Kyle Shanahan and McVay, they all love Darnold. I'll bet you
Well, that's
Brady.
because he didn't really play for them.
But I think Brady's probably respects Kyle Shanahan and he's like, well, if Shanahan likes him, then I'll like him. But I don't think, by the way, I don't think Sam Darnold in the I kept reading that. I'm not sure they want him or he wants to be there. I feel like he wants to go to Minnesota. That's the other thing. Like, you kept reading rumors that the Vikings are going to be back in on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, I'd want to be there with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, too.
Yes,
it's going to
exactly.
be very different if he goes to a place like the Raiders, who's like number one, wide receivers, Brock Bowers, and then now it looks like they're trying to trade Michael Mayer. They're just 2 years ago was their second-round pick. That's funny. Do you think Brady respects Kyle Shanahan? I mean, Brady has the biggest comeback in the history of the Super Bowl off of Kyle Shanahan's miscalculations. He's blown 2 fourth-quarter leads in Super Bowls as a head coach, one as an offensive coordinator. I'm sure he respects him. It's not like but I wonder what Brady really thinks about Shanahan. I mean,
well, if you're not going to respect Shanahan and McVay, like, who do you respect?
No,
like Josh McDaniels? I don't even know. Those are the and the other. I mean, he wanted Ben Johnson, who's basically Shanahan light. Like he. I don't know. I assumed everybody respected Kyle Shanahan. Maybe I'm totally wrong.
Him, but that's not the Belichick way. The Belichick way is not to blow leads in the fourth quarter of Super Bowls. It's all about being the smarter team, and people fear you because they think that once they've got you, and they don't make dumb mistakes. And I think Kyle Shanahan has definitely made some dumb mistakes in big games.
Oh, jeez, wow. That is rough.
I'm not alone here, by the way. I think that's the general consensus about Kyle Shanahan at the biggest stage. Now, it takes a lot to get to that big stage. So,
No, I mean, I feel like Kyle Shanahan is definitely a top 5 coach in the NFL. I feel like Brady would kill to have Kyle Shanahan in the Raiders. But I mean, everything you say makes sense. It just never dawned on me that anyone would not take Kyle Shanahan's opinion on a quarterback very seriously.
Let's go to James in L.A. James, what do you think for the Raiders here? Where do they pivot to?
Hey, how you guys doing? This first time I'm calling you guys. I heard you guys a little bit. I think Tom Brady goes with respect to the fact that he brought in had something to do with Pete Carroll. He went after Ben Johnson, but it wasn't available, and he got Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll was the coach that kind of went head up with him in the Super Bowl, so he knows he can bring it, even at 70. So I think he might take a chance on Russ, because Russ went toe-to-toe with him, and he has that respect that even though Brady won the Super Bowl, he knows that was a bad Seattle. That was Seattle's game to lose.
Sure.
And they did, but Russ, went toe-to-toe with Brady. So I think he has respect for that. I think Aaron Rodgers, he knows chokes. Nobody else has proven. So he might take a chance on Russ. And the big thing is to focus on Manning coming out of Texas next year. So I think they're going to do that. They know they're not going to do anything this year. Beef up that offensive line, get some more receivers and everything, and try to get Manning, next year.
Yeah,
and,
James.
Hey, aren't you that guy from DC show a long time ago? Or no?
Wait, me?
Yes.
Yeah, you sound just like him. That's what I know that guy said he was going to Iceland or something like that.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Oh, okay. You sound just like him. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. DP show?
Interesting.
Don't know that.
Does anyone tell you you look like McLovin?
You sound just like him, man. That's what I'm like. Dang, I know this guy. If you went on your own way, that's cool. But I was like, your voice is kind of distinctive. And I haven't heard nobody sound like you other than, like you said, you used to be on there. I forgot your name was McMuffin or something like that.
Yeah.
But,
nope.
Nope. Whatever it is over here. I mean, if it's not you, my mistake, I'm sorry. But
I don't know what you're talking about, James, but thanks for the call, man.
There was a dude on there that sounded like that.
Yeah.
Said he was moving the family to Iceland and starting over.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's him. Maybe you're in. Maybe you're not. Whatever. It's all good. It's all good. I like you guys' show, though.
Thanks, buddy.
James, epic call.
Yeah. The Iceland thing was a real consideration.
I was going to say.
I loved James is right. Thank you, James. But I would love. Was I here when I did the Iceland trip, or was I a DP show? I don't remember.
You were definitely a DP show. Obviously,
Wait,
yes,
you are the guy?
Of course it is McLovin.
I think I was here when I did Iceland.
Here's the funny part: is
are
if he had
McMuffin?
said, "Man, this handsome guy at the DP show," you would have
He said
totally
that?
copped to it. No, I said if he did. No, of course, yes, it's McLovin. I've never heard McMuffin before,
Oh, that was
and now I'm hungry for one.
No, that was an old. That happened all the time. I think
McMuffins are elite.
I think I was here for Iceland.
No, because you were definitely a DP show for Iceland.
Oh my God, July 24th, 2021, and we started
We started January of 22.
22. The first one, the Rams Bengals Super Bowl.
Yep, that was us.
Oh my God, I just missed. Yeah, I was because Iceland. You know why I liked Iceland?
Why?
No one there is tan. I was like as tan as any other person.
You
So I
look
was
like
like all
Rico
about that.
Suave of Iceland.
There was a lot in that call, by the way. So, by the way, he disproved your point. You're saying that Brady might not respect Kyle Shanahan because he blew the Super Bowl. He hired Pete Carroll,
That's
who
true.
ultimately blew a Super Bowl to Tom Brady. So I don't know. And by the way, and Shanahan and Brady flirted playing together forever. Like that was always a thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny to me, like Pete Carroll, you're telling me he's going to hire Pete Carroll, but he doesn't respect Kyle Shanahan because he lost the Super Bowl? And he wasn't even the head coach for that Super Bowl, so I can't buy that.
Russ as the connection, that's an easy one to make. If he and Pete Carroll are really on good terms now,
Well,
then that's fine.
but that got really ugly in 2020, 2021 when I was traipsing around Iceland. I remember
McMuffin and
McMuffin
family.
was all over Iceland. I remember Russ's agent came out and said, it's me or Pete Carroll.
And Perloff got out of a hot spring somewhere, jumped up.
Can I tell you a real quick story about that, by the way?
Yeah, can you get a McMuffin in Iceland? I'm checking that
So
out.
we were just in Costa Rica, as I've been mentioning. There's a hot springs there. It's actually, you go in these baths that are volcanic water. It's really cool. And our family reminisced. I'm like, we were in Iceland where they have a famous thing called the Blue Lagoon, which is also a volcano heated pool. It's amazing. It's this giant hot tub, massive hot tubs, thousands of people. Someone in our family said, oh, yeah, that's sad because the Blue Lagoon doesn't exist anymore because the volcano that actually fueled it erupted and buried the whole thing. And we were so sad for the whole thing.
Did you double check that?
No, finally we double checked it this weekend. Turned out somebody completely made that up. It was false information. So we thought this tourist site in Iceland had been destroyed by a volcano. We were all lamenting the loss. Fell for what is it called? Fake information.
The McMuffin family.
I was like, I think I
They
would have
don't
heard of
believe
that
anything.
if a giant tourist spot in Iceland was paved over by an active volcano. That would be news, right? Somehow, stupidly, I thought, oh, wow, that's
How did
sick.
someone even get to this? No, I'm looking at I can book a hotel to go to the Blue Lagoon right now.
Yes, I know. We looked at it this weekend.
McMuffin or something like that.
Yeah. We were in the car, and I said to my wife, I'm like, we should check that Blue Lagoon story. That really doesn't make sense. This actually happened. I'm not exaggerating this at all. And she Googles, she's like, yeah, it seems to be doing fine. I'm like, you mean it wasn't buried like Pompeii in a volcano?
People are just like in ash, forever running. Yeah, I think we would have known. I think we would have heard about that. That's pretty nuts.
My in-laws sort of help us go on these trips, and they're crazy. Every one of them, we're still recovering from Costa Rica. My wife had 7 injuries. She got kicked by a horse. She got
Oh my goodness.
stepped on a weird plant in this sort of national park. Everybody is still recovering from this trip, which was amazing. But I'm like, can't we just go to? You like a beach, right? That's your ultimate vacation.
Beach and pool.
Yeah,
I'm good.
My family has no interest in that. They're like, where can we go hiking? That's the number one problem. Well, apparently we can go to Iceland to the Blue Lagoon because it's not destroyed.
Man, there's so much here. First of all, they've closed all the Mickey D's in Iceland. You can't get a McMuffin there. According to the internet, they closed them all. I don't know.
What?
Secondly,
Okay.
When you think Blue Lagoon, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The movie.
That story or the movie with Brooke Shields
And yeah,
or Hugh Hefner's place. That's the Grotto, though. I guess that's not.
I don't think that's called the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah,
is
I
it?
guess it's called the Grotto.
Blue Lagoon is an old movie where it came on cable where most of my generation learned about the opposite sex.
Yeah, that was an education.
Yeah. That was wild. Basically, Brooke Shield, who was very young at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Turns out if you're stranded on a desert island, two hot people.
Yeah. One more quick left turn. You
Yeah.
were surprised by. I was giving you a hard time last week because you were surprised when you put on the Oscar-winning movie Anora.
Yeah.
And there was all this nudity and adult content. Friday, I'm like, this is going to win the Oscar. I got to watch it. You were not lying. What is going on with that movie? I'm like, bow chicka bow bow. I can't even, why is this
opening credits haven't even happened yet.
Yeah. How is this a critical darling? It's basically like the most unerotic adult film you've ever seen in your life.
Penix is going to be inserted.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is there was a lot of nudity, but it was wildly unpleasant. I'm like, these are terrible people, and I don't want to see this anymore. I turned it off halfway through. It's just way too negative.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a downer.
It's such a downer.
It's not a romance movie, which is what they build it as. That's just false advertising. Bogusch has seen it, too. We were not lying to you. Penix looks really good. Don't watch it on a plane, is what I would say about Anora.
No.
Yeah, there's gonna be someone waiting to take you away in handcuffs if you watch that in public.
Yeah, there's no safe spaces in that movie visually, let alone the language. But something's always shaken or being revealed or whatever. There's no...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, here's a bad 6 seconds. Hopefully nobody's watching my screen. Then it's higher first 2/3 of the movie.
But it's in a way, if you're tuning in for that, it's not as fun to watch as you might think. It's something really unpleasant about the whole thing. It's about the sex worker industry.
You didn't even see how it ended. I mean, it gets...
Powerful.
I read about it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a very oddly structured movie. It's like Skinamax, and then it's like a slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
And then it's like a hard-hitting, take your soul finish.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
And it won the Oscar. About these strippers.
Yeah.
It beat out Wicked, which is none of those things.
That'd be a shock. Bogusch says headlines.
Thanks, McMuffin. Headlines are sponsored by Progressive
or something like that.
Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
My wife had 7 injuries. She got kicked by a horse.
Here's my Cowboy Quickie. Extension talks have reportedly begun with Micah Parsons and D-tackle Osa Odigizua in line for the franchise tag. That deadline is tomorrow. Now, the last 2 players the Cowboys tagged, tight end Dalton Schultz and running back Tony Pollard, did not sign long-term and left the team the following offseason. Breaking news now from the NBA. The Suns still useless.
Edwards takes a run on Beal off the Randall screen, pops on the 3 and seals the win. Anthony Edwards, a 40-point game here in the desert. And the Wolves lead by 14 with 2 minutes left to play.
That's Alan Horton on T-Wolves Radio. Edwards finished with 44 in a 116-98 win. The Suns have now dropped 11 of 14, so Kevin Durant ain't happy.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a game, man. We didn't play our standards up to our standards at all. We embarrassed the fans. We embarrassed ourselves the way we played. I want us to be better.
The Suns are
He's an idiot.
5 games under 500, 4 games behind the Mavs for the last spot in the West play-in. The Lakers held off the Clippers 108-102. Luka 29 points and 9 assists. And the Thunder outscored the Spurs 146-132 behind a career-high 41 from Jalen Williams. This game also featured a third-quarter scuffle that led to 3 ejections, including OKC's Lou Dort. The Kings said yesterday that Domantas Sabonis is out indefinitely with a grade 1 hamstring strain. Next update is in a week, and South Carolina women's basketball will have the number 1 seed in the upcoming SEC tournament after winning a coin toss with Texas yesterday. Both schools won their finales yesterday, so they finished the regular season at 15-1 in the league. They split their season series, and apparently the very next tiebreaker then is the coin toss, which went in South Carolina's favor.
That's very different, I feel like, from the tiebreakers we have in college football.
Yeah, usually the coin flip is 7 or 8 on the list of tiebreakers. I don't know why they go so quickly to it. I mean, and again, I guess it doesn't really matter who's 1 or 2 in the bracket. But yeah, that was a weird thing to very quickly go to the coin flip.
Yeah, we have no common opponents record.
Right.
We've got no strength of schedule. We can't get
Ken
home.
Palm or something.
Yeah,
or
there's not a Jerry Ken Pomerantz? I don't know. There's got to be somebody better than a coin flip.
Because one of the men's leagues, the Ohio Valley or the Missouri Valley, one of those was waiting until this morning to set their bracket because they needed to have the rest of the country finish their games to use the net rankings to break ties. And these guys are like, let's just not wait. Let's do a coin toss.
I like this because it's totally irrelevant. I mean, both teams are number one seeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone's like, I got a new laptop and I don't have Excel on it. It's like, oh, no. Well, let's just flip a coin. It feels like someone mailed it in is what I'm getting at.
Advice to young people, never learn how to use Excel because you will be called upon for that skill throughout the office.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is one thing. Like, you bring a good point. Don't put Excel on your computer.
That's why you shouldn't learn it?
Yes.
That's why you should learn it.
No.
You become invaluable in the office. Now you got a skill and other people are relying on you. This is the way to get promoted.
Oh, I don't know.
That's why Bellatti's still here. He knows how to make a schedule.
The Excel guy never gets promoted. I think there's something about it. Like, you are viewed differently if you know Excel. Nobody,
Excel becomes your identity, and you hate Excel.
And it's also like, if you're like,
man.
Nobody has a crush on the Excel guy.
Again, correct.
Like,
you're making my point here.
Like, I talked about Billy in accounting. Like, Ron in accounts payable. Like, that guy. Like, he doesn't know Excel. He's just there because he's good looking. That's who. That's the guy who gets promoted.
The vibes guy.
That's the guy who gets promoted. Not Pete with his Excel. No, does Pete even know it? Pete knows Excel?
He knows how to make a schedule. I don't know what platform he's using for it, but
I think you're an idiot.
It's the same point.
Do you know Excel?
No.
You have no office skills. Neither
Zero.
do I. None at all.
Making a schedule, though, is not really an Excel skill.
Yeah.
Unless you're keeping track of people's hours for certain
Right,
reasons.
yeah, because that's just plugging in a table.
Yeah.
Like Excel skills are like, I put it in like a math equation, and I'm
Yes.
able to then determine like how much you make or something like that.
Pete does know the payroll software.
I go in a urinal, I go in the store, wherever.
I do think that this discussion underscores how wildly unprepared any of us are for any real jobs in life. Like, we have no skills.
What? Talking about what the Raiders should do next at QB is not a skill? How dare you?
Yeah.
Okay, 855-212-4227. Thank you, Bogusch. What should the Raiders do next? Now they have to pivot because Matthew Stafford is no longer an option. You could say ditto for the New York Giants. We also have some shakeups in San Francisco. Lots to do. It's M&P.
McMuffin or something like that.
Yeah.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're going
Monday morning.
A lot of old school this Monday morning.
Thumbs up. Okay, we're asking you what the Las Vegas Raiders should do at quarterback now. They've got to make a real strong pivot because Matthew Stafford is returning to the Rams. So where do they go? Do they try out the veteran market, Pearl? Does suddenly Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, someone like that, start looking a little more attractive? Or do they now put all their eggs in the drafting basket, which is not a sure thing? And do they hope that either Shedeur Sanders maybe falls to them or maybe they trade up?
Yeah, or how about top a second-round guy, maybe a Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart, and then get a really talented player at 6, get an older player. I think if you have Russell Wilson, he's a bridge quarterback. You got to get somebody young in the building, or are you just tanking and waiting for Arch?
Let's go to Paul. He's in Delaware. Paul, what do you think about the Raiders quarterback situation?
I don't like any of Darnold or Rodgers. If I was going to do any of the free agents, I would, because of Chip Kelly, I'd go with Justin Fields. My other thing is I think that Sanders, it depends on what the Giants do, but I think if the Giants don't take Sanders, he's going to fall to the Raiders. They're going to take him. And the other thing is Pete Carroll's huge with defense, so I'd like to see them spend their free agency money mostly on defense and build that defense up.
You know, Paul, anytime you're adding meaningfully to a defense, I'm not going to hate on it, especially when you're in a division where you got to face Patrick Mahomes and you have to face Justin Herbert. Thank you so much.
But can you actually imagine the logistics of that? Like the Raiders, who have no skill position players, go all in on defense? And I understand the logic there. It makes sense, but that is a very bad offense.
It is, but I don't know why. Maybe I'm being naive. I think it's a little easier to fix your offense in the draft than it is your defense.
No, you're right. I mean, the Raiders could use a lot of defensive help as well.
Yeah, and I think it's smart because if you're really going to compete in your own division, how are you going to stop some of these other quarterbacks and coaches? Like, you may not think that Bo Nix is the second coming, but with Sean Payton, we just saw them make the playoffs in year one. So, Justin Herbert's obviously an elite quarterback, and Mahomes is Mahomes. So, I going defense is not a terrible idea with Pete Carroll, but you're nothing if you don't have a quarterback. So, how are they going to solve this thing? To me, it feels like Shedeur is the best option. But again, it's not a sure thing.
They're thin on both sides of the line. I know they have Max Crosby, who's amazing, but generally they have so much work to do. That's why I just didn't get Stafford. Because if they put all their cap money into Stafford, how are they going to build a team quickly enough around him to compete? I know Tom Brady is there, and I know that he is a smart guy, but I still think it's a very hard job. I would give them 4 years like any other rebuilding team, but no one's doing that.
Well, I think it's because of Pete Carroll's age. But to be honest, that's one piece of this thing, and Pete Carroll is a very young 73. Now, the Chip Kelly aspect of this is an interesting thing that Paul brought up. He said, knowing Chip Kelly, I'd go with Justin Fields, which is funny because when I think of Chip Kelly, do you immediately associate him with running quarterbacks?
Oh, well, back at Oregon, yeah. Mariota,
Jeremiah
Massola. Yeah, he used to do that system. A long time ago, and Fields would have fit that very nicely.
I was going to say, didn't he have Nick Foles when he was with the
Eagles?
Eagles?
He had this great year with Nick Foles, but I think this could be totally wrong. I think he ran a lot of RPOs.
Okay.
I don't know if he ran any with Foles, because Foles obviously isn't going to run, but he used to be a mobile quarterback.
And Will Howard coming out of Ohio State, he was not a runner.
He didn't. I mean, Chip Kelly at Ohio State was run the ball into the line on first and second down. He was so conservative. So that's an interesting twist on this too. Maybe that caller was right. Maybe they want to slow the game down. The Chiefs are so good.
Yep.
The Chargers have a quarterback. The Broncos have a quarterback. So what if Will zag? We'll go defense and run game.
Can Justin Fields execute that for you?
Yes, that's what Pittsburgh wants him for.
Yeah.
Because he'll
Pittsburgh
run for first down.
Though.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if I'm Pittsburgh, I probably am keeping Fields over Russ. Am I not? I mean, Russ could even make it through the full season. And I don't know if Fields would have been able to, but Russ could make it through a full season. And, I love those moon balls. We all do. But I think that Justin Fields actually, he was not perfect. He didn't outright win the job, but he wasn't an embarrassment.
Yeah, I mean, Russ was better than him last year, but you're right. What's the future? I don't understand what most of these teams, I don't understand what Pittsburgh's long-term plan is. Fields, they benched him last year.
Yeah, I just know that the owner said he wants to keep one of the two. Yeah, and then the latest from Omar Khan, their GM, is they want to keep one of the two. It's like, well, they're not exactly the same here. These guys are totally different stratospheres as far as how they play.
And a lot of the Pittsburgh reporters are leaning Fields. It seems like he's the front runner to keep that job. The Giants like Fields too, reportedly. I don't totally get that either.
I mean, I don't know how much that raises your floor. Like, if you're thinking about, I'm going to get fired if I don't have a good season. All right, let's throw everything in Justin Fields' basket. Like, I'm not feeling awesome about my future. But at least it'd be probably cheap and short term.
You're the same team, same guys who like Daniel Jones. So Fields is similar. Daniel Jones ran all the time. Maybe you see the same things. I mean, squint and see the same. I don't know what to do here.
I guess so.
Let's face it, this is a disaster for all these teams that didn't get Stafford, Maggie. I mean, Stafford would have answered all these problems, but then again, in 3 years, where would they be?
Like, we can give you guys, and we can give you quarterbacks, we can place them. I just don't feel awesome about any of them, except for Shedeur, I think, with the Raiders. Yeah.
You know who these teams need? They need to get their Baker Mayfield. They need to find somebody who is decent enough where you can consistently make the playoffs, a guy who was at somewhere else, who got jettisoned. Maybe there's something in there that they could find. Like, Baker was hurt his last year at the Browns, and I think we all end up underestimating his prior years at the Browns, which were pretty good. One of these teams...
Is that Darnold, though? That kind of fits the profile. Former high pick.
Probably.
But Darnold's coming off a high, though.
And Darnold's had no success. That's Baker at least got one playoff win.
That's why I wonder if it's Fields, right? He's a high draft pick. He has had some success. Maybe not so much throwing the football, but as an overall athlete, he has shown that he can be a difference maker. Maybe he's the guy where if he gets to the right situation that's perfect for him, maybe you turn him into, again, nobody thinks he's going to be an all-pro, but maybe he's a guy that can at least get you back to playoff contention at least.
Well, what about Kirk Cousins, maybe? Is that an older guy? Like
he's just old.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The only thing, too, about Fields is I don't see him with Dayball. Like, Dayball will have running quarterbacks, but also ones with big arms. Maybe Chip Kelly would be a better fit. 855-212-4227. All right. Raiders need a quarterback. Giants need a quarterback. Jets need a quarterback. Cleveland needs a quarterback. Tennessee needs a quarterback. The 49ers have a quarterback, but making changes everywhere else. I'll tell you about it next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Almost feels like the end of an era. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Pearl, we knew it was probably coming, but when you finally saw the news that Deebo Samuel was traded for the San Francisco 49ers to the Washington Commanders for a 5th-round pick, listen, there's still a lot of the core for San Francisco. Deebo wasn't the whole thing, and obviously he had been declining over the last couple years, but it does signify the end of, this kind of gadgety sort of player, this late-round pick that the San Francisco 49ers found, John Lynch, and found a unique way to use him and got so close. I mean, 2 leads in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl, but could never get it done, and now Deebo Samuel's out of there.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, the way you describe it, it makes it sound like the end of an era, but I don't think this signals the end of an era in the sense that, like, when they lost the Super Bowl in 2019, they had a terrible year. Then they bounced right back.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they lost the Super Bowl. Last year had a terrible year. I still think there's a chance they bounce right back. I don't think Deebo is going to be a core part of that because he struggled so much last year. His numbers were terrible.
Yep.
We know that he's 29 and he has an injury history. So to me, like, I don't see this as any kind of end of an era. I think the end of an era will really be when Bosa and Warner retire. And those guys are getting up there too. I feel like they can plug right into Deebo and figure that out. That's not freaking me out too much if I'm a Niners fan.
I mean, I think the big question is whether or not the Niners are going to have this bounce back season, and should we expect something like that? Here's my thing about Deebo. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg in what could be maybe a pretty substantial makeover. There are still the rumors out there. I don't know how much to put stock into them.
Yeah.
That Brandon Ayuk is on the trade block. I don't know how you trade a guy who's coming off of an ACL who you just paid all this money to, but nonetheless, the rumors persist. And is there a world where they're going with Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings along with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and feel like that's enough for Brock Purdy? I also think they've got a lot of guys on the defense that they have to make decisions about. Important guys like Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga and dudes who have been part of the solution. Now and Charvarius Ward, there's a lot of decisions to be made with the 49ers on top of obviously the contract negotiations with Brock Purdy that have already started. And is this going to be a very different looking team come training camp?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to look more like the old Niners because you get Salah back in the building and you have a healthy Warner and Bosa. Honestly, the guys around them, they seem like they're pieces. Like they can come and go and it doesn't really matter. I think like if they can get the core of this defense back to where it was 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago until they started rotating defensive coordinators, then I think they could be right back where they are. I think Kyle Shanahan's a great offensive coach. So what if you lose? I didn't have Ayuk last year, obviously, but if you lose Ayuk and Samuel, that's why you have Kyle Shanahan. That's why you're paying Brock Purdy. I think you can, and you assume that Christian McCaffrey is back and healthy. That's plenty of weaponry.
Well, first of all, I haven't heard anything about McCaffrey. Has anyone else? This guy is seems like a rumor, and that's fine. It's the offseason. He's a veteran. He can disappear for a little bit. But then the other part is, I don't think you're necessarily right about that. I think Kyle Shanahan is a brilliant offensive mind, clearly. But we saw what happened this year when there was no Brandon Ayuk. And we saw what happened when there was no Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy didn't look as good, which is why we asked you in a poll question last week, are you signing Brock Purdy begrudgingly? Are you signing him excitedly? And begrudgingly won that poll in pretty convincing fashion. I think that you do need to have an elite menu of offensive options in order for Brock Purdy to be at his absolute best. So I don't think you can say, we'll just take away this guy, we'll plug in this guy. They couldn't do that last year. The offense stagnated.
Yeah, well, the defense was was really the big problem last year, wasn't it? Towards the end, they were getting in these shootouts, which was so bizarre for them. I thought their offense handled itself okay considering the situation. I mean, think of their first Super Bowl run. They had Emmanuel Sanders, who Jimmy G famously missed in the Super Bowl. They did have Deebo at that point.
And Kittle.
But they were able to redefine themselves a lot. There was no McCaffrey. I think they had Raheem Mostert was the running back. And the line was a lot different. They had this veteran offensive line. They rebuilt on the fly. I think that front office has shown that they can do that. So I'm not so worried about the offense. I'm really worried about the defense. Look at some of the scores last year. Like, they were in some wild shootouts. That is not what the Niners want to be. I think they need to get back to their roots. And I think that's why they're shopping Ayuk, and they don't want to be this fast-moving offense anymore. I think they want to be a little more conservative.
I mean, if you're the owner of the 49ers, and I know you put a lot of trust into Shanahan and Lynch, and you know, you're rewarded because we've seen what this can be when it's at its absolute apex, which is a Super Bowl contending team. But you got to wonder a little, don't you, about why they keep making these moves and then immediately pivoting off of them. You know, you trade all this draft capital to get Trey Lance, pivot off him for Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
Then you sign Brandon Ayuk to this big deal, pivot right off of him if they are actually looking for a trade partner.
Well,
just to get something else. Like, well, I don't know. I'd be like, guys, what's the situation here? You could have traded Ayuk last offseason.
Well, he tore his ACL. I mean, that was
guys
never
come back from that. I mean,
but
it's not a career-ending injury.
I don't think you could judge Shanahan and Lynch on the Ayuk situation. Like, the guy tore his ACL. That wasn't their fault.
Right. So, but why are you trying to get out from under him already? Like, again, an ACL is not. He didn't shatter his. I don't know. I don't even know what would be worse. But dudes come back from ACLs all the time. You gave Christian McCaffrey a raise when he's got a crazy injury history. So clearly that doesn't scare them off too much.
Well, you're right. I don't think they wanted to sign Ayuk. But why did they not want to sign Ayuk? Because they know they have a great system. They don't need to pay a guy like Brandon Ayuk $30 million. Brandon Ayuk's basically fancy Calvin Ridley. He could get 1,300 yards of the right system. But I don't think he's viewed by them as a number 1A receiver. He's not prime Davante Adams. He's not Tyreek Hill.
Right. But again, then why sign him? You could have traded him to the, all reports, could have traded him to the Steelers, could have traded him to the New England Patriots, could have traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, anything if you're just going to let him go now.
Well, they're trying to trade him, though.
I know, but you're going to get less now, in theory, because he's expensive and he's coming off of a big injury.
Right, but you could not have, my point is you couldn't predict, like, you can't blame Lynch and Shanahan for how this played out because of the injury. And the other thing, too, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's, I think, 9-4 in the postseason. He's one of the, I think that you're way too down on Kyle Shanahan. I think 31 teams would kill to have that guy, including the Chiefs, because Andy Reid's old. I'm just saying, Kyle Shanahan, he's basically young Andy Reid. He hasn't gotten over the hump, but he will. And I will be there to tell you, I told you so. It took Reid about 10 years.
I know. How long do I have to wait for you to tell me?
How old was Andy Reid when he won his first Super Bowl?
How old am I going to be when I get that? I told you so.
Shanahan's still pretty young. I think that Shanahan's a really good coach. And I think the ownership's like, listen, dude, we're paying you a ton of money. You figure this out with Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. That's the other thing. They drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round. Make that happen.
Andy Reid was 61 when they won a Super Bowl in 2019.
And what's Shanahan, 49 now?
Do not know off the top of my head, but probably around there.
I'm curious how 49er fans are thinking.
45. Wow.
855-212-4227 and about what the future holds. Are you anticipating this big bounce back season, or are you trying to be a little more measured about it? Because, again, I think Deebo was just the first one, And listen, it was a guy who was basically running a lot of the 49ers drafts, a man by the name of Adam Peters, who is now the general manager in Washington. So there's clearly a connection there. And he still sees value in Deebo. And, a fifth-round pick, so whatever.
Yeah, that part I don't agree.
What's that?
The value in Deebo, just based on the fact that every other old receiver that's been traded has been a bust. Everyone, almost everyone. Maybe I'm missing a few, but I think of Stephon Diggs to Houston last year, Davante Adams to the Jets. Generally, this is a really
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, it's a really hard formula to make work with an older receiver. It almost always fails. We get really excited about them, and then they can't produce like they used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're Washington, they have a lot of changes coming up on, they've probably got a lot of pressure now to follow up what was a dream season to make it to the NFC Championship game sort of out of nowhere. They've clearly got a great rookie quarterback. I think you're just trying to put everything around him you can, and if it's going to be something like take a flyer on Deebo and he can get us through a year or two or help us. They don't really have somebody with that kind of skill set on the Washington side, so I can see taking a risk. At 855-212-4227.
Well,
it's not really
but
a risk.
there's
I mean,
cost
just
there.
taking a flyer.
Well, they're paying him $17.5 million.
I think they're going to stretch that out, though.
But that's money, whatever money that is, that could have gone to a different player. I said this to EJ before the show. If you could get T. Higgins with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, boom, all of a sudden you were right there as a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, but that's like,
It's going to be hard.
Well, and also, does that make a lot of sense? Because, Terry McLaurin, I think, has another year left on his contract. Then he's going to need another raise. And so now you're going to do 2 receivers that are going to be making around $30 million when you got all these holes now on defense. I don't think that makes sense.
Who's the other team that pays 2 receivers $30 million?
Well, the Eagles, but if you can draft like the Eagles on the defensive line in the secondary, more power to you. But a lot of teams haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, I still think that this Deebo thing, I just don't think it's going to be what they might think it is. I mean, it's a 5th-round pick. That speaks to the lack of risk, but it is a chunk of salary cap space. Again, who are they going to – free agency is so overrated, right? Who are they going to spend this $60 million on? They're going to get guys that other teams don't want. I'm a little bit worried about the Commanders rebuilding on the fly. You're right. They have a lot of holes. They were super dependent on Zach Ertz last year. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if Daniels took that second-year regression, just a little bit.
I'm curious of the 49er fans. How are you feeling here? Are you feeling like super excited, re-energized? Listen, last year couldn't have gone any worse. Starting from the offseason, just terrible. Do you feel like you're poised now to get back within striking distance of the Super Bowl, or is this thing continue? I'm not sold that you're coming all the way back. Because you still have to rely a lot on McCaffrey. Like, you're better when he's good. If he's not there, it definitely changes things. Same thing with Kittle getting older. This Ayuk stuff is just weird to me that he would be on the trade block right now. 855-212-4227.
The Niners are 3rd in Super Bowl odds. That feels a little rich. I was going to say, do you have to get back to Super Bowl for this to be a successful year? Because you're clearly clearing out some cap space.
I think that the 49ers, if you're looking at just over this Kyle Shanahan, Joe Lynch era together, I mean, you've gotten John Lynch. You've gotten so close. Don't you have to say, the playoffs start at the divisional round? Like, they're one of those teams with the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens. Like, they should be judged on a totally different calculus.
I think they're looking at exactly what happened last time. They got to Super Bowl, had a lot of injuries. I think they were 10-7 the next year, had a tough defense, and fought their way almost to the Super Bowl. I think they want to go that path again. I don't think they're going to be front runners. I think they'd rather be the sneaky come from behind team a little bit here. And they're going to be young. Ricky Pearsall is young.
Yep.
Brandon Ayuk actually is young. Brock Purdy's really young. So they're really young at some key positions. They do have the old guys with Fred Warner and McCaffrey, but I think that they're looking a little more long-term here, which is smart. I again, and you're not the only one. Like, everyone is like Super Bowl or bust for Kyle Shanahan. If they try, how old is Brock Purdy? He's
in his mid-20s. Also, Fred Warner's not old. He's 28.
Yeah, for a linebacker?
I don't know. Linebackers can play till they're 32, 33? He's got 5 more good years.
I feel
does
like
he not?
the Bosa Warner thing is, I don't know. How old's Bosa, too? He's
27.
27. I think that starts to slow down when they hit 30. That's getting up
Fred
there.
Warner also was playing on a broken ankle last year.
Yeah, we didn't even see the full Fred Warner.
Yeah. But then you wonder, though, is it the beginning of him breaking down, too?
Yeah, and he's going to get expensive. I think the defense is, to me, getting a little bit older. I didn't even realize, you mentioned Hufanga. He's a little older than I thought, too. I thought he was like a rookie, because we haven't seen that much of him.
I know, because he was getting hurt. 855-212-4227. Can I say one more thing that's not going in the 49ers' favor? Matthew Stafford's back with the Rams. You may have been licking your chops thinking, all right, this is cool. Let's send Matthew Stafford to the Raiders, and we never have to see him again. Well, now he's back. Rams are definitely going for it. And, it's already a really tough division to play in because Seattle's a tough place to play. Arizona's always kind of plucky. And now you got Stafford with the Rams. So that's not awesome either from the 49ers' point of view.
Yeah. Then they'll say their counter is we're getting Christian McCaffrey back, and we always win when he's on the field. That could be their best bet. It's not.
Where is Christian McCaffrey? Like, I haven't seen him at all.
What do you mean? Like, where would you see him?
Well, I guess John Lynch was asked. He said about Christian McCaffrey will participate in at least parts of the offseason program. I don't know. Here's my thing about McCaffrey. I was told last year he's coming back. He's close to being back. He's going to be ready for this. He's going to be ready for that. Then he's in Germany getting some treatments. And then we didn't see him. So and it wasn't an impact. Guten Tag. So until I see McCaffrey out on the field and producing, I'm not saying anything about McCaffrey. I got to see it.
It's March 3rd. Where's he going to produce?
No, I'm saying in any of the offseason programs or anything. Because
There's no offseason programs yet.
He's going to be ready for camp. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. And we got nothing.
Well, it's hard to tell March 3rd. I just Googled him. He was at SNL this weekend, so that's something.
Oh, okay.
He's in New York. Maybe they're flirting with trading to the Giants. I have no idea. But
they're trading him to Lorne Michaels?
Here he is standing next to Shane Gillis. He looks perfectly healthy. He's standing on two legs, no crutches. That's the best. It seems like a positive sign.
Perloff all of a sudden puts the mortgage on 49ers to the Super Bowl. 855-212-4227. Let us know what you think about the 49ers. Are you bullish on this upcoming season or still need a lot of questions answered? I'm in the wait and see mode. Not ready to be like, oh, yeah, this is the bounce back year for the 49ers. Not sure. Again, I got to see McCaffrey. I want to see what Kittle looks like. I want to see what Trent Williams' situation is. I want to see what's going on with Hufanga and Ward and Greenlaw.
You should bet now. The odds are still pretty good. They came into last year like plus 250, and now they're plus 700 to get it to Super Bowl. And then you can get like plus 300 to win NFC. It's pretty good. They're right there with the Commanders and the Packers.
The Commanders.
I don't know. It's I just think that why not the Niners? You think the Eagles are like the dominant team? There's got to be somebody who's.
Well, what about the Lions with a big comeback? Have we heard the last from Green Bay? You know. What do we think? What about those Commanders? Are they going to take a step back or step forward? 855-212-4227. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say I put the Niners in the mix with all those teams. Whereas I understand what you're saying. They're getting old for sure. Trent Williams. But to count out Kyle Shanahan and this team, we've done it in the past and it hasn't worked out well for us. The guy wins a lot of playoff games. Then he blows it at the biggest moments.
All right, coming up, whose stock is up and whose stock is down after a big weekend? It's the M&P 500 next.
All right, Maggie.
I
was in Philly this weekend, and I was for my dad's 80th birthday, and everyone says,
"Happy birthday, Tom!"
Yeah. Why are you on your phone? Why are you on your phone? I'll tell you why I'm on my phone. Go Prize Picks, baby. First of all, the Sixers beat the Warriors. That was a reason to celebrate in the Perloff household. It was also, if you were playing Prize Picks, it's awesome. Best place to cash in on your favorite sports, including the NBA, hockey, college sports. Over 10 million members. Billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks made daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. It's so simple to use. You pick 2 or more players across any sport, pick more or less on their projection, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money.
All right, this one feels a little too easy for tonight. Can I get Steph Curry more than 5.5 assists? And I'm actually going to pair it with a guy we talked about quite a bit a couple weeks ago, Pearl, and that'd be Brady Tkachuk over more than 18.8 minutes on the ice. I love a little NBA hockey mixture there, and the only place I can do it and feel good about it is Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's available in more than 40 states, including California and Texas, Perloff's beloved Pennsylvania. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code M&P. Get a $50 in bonus promo funds instantly when you play $5. That's code M&P on Prize Picks to get $50 in bonus promo funds instantly when you play $5. So win or lose, you get the $50 bonus credit for just playing. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Mand P.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The M&P 500 on the Infinity Sports Network.
We're back, Maggie Perloff Show. Every week we do the M&P 500, stock up, stock down in the world of sports or elsewhere. Maggie, why don't you get us started?
Okay, stock up, I was going to say Tennessee Titans. The asking price now for the number one overall pick could be shooting through the roof if they are indeed interested in trading that pick, because Matthew Stafford is off the market. Cam Ward seems to have separated himself amongst these top QBs, and the other quarterbacks didn't really do that well at the combine. Shedeur didn't do anything; he didn't work out. So I'm sure he still has his suitors, but the other guys, no one really separated themselves from the pack.
Well, you can't do anything at the combine to move into the first round.
Well, I don't know. Guys get some buzz around them going into the pro day. It didn't, it's not like everyone was throwing bombs out there, but it just didn't seem like anyone really took the reins on that third QB.
Right. But I think it's, we're basically, the media is catching up on what the NFL, there's a whole layer of information below.
Sure.
I'd also, you brought something up earlier. Do you really think Shedeur is falling, or is this a smokescreen?
I think it's a possible smokescreen, and that he's just going to go to Cleveland number 2, and it's going to be simple. Or, like some of the talent evaluators have said, listen, he might not be slam dunk first round pick, and some people are catching up to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's not huge either. Neither him nor Cam Ward hit 6'2". To me, it's kind of an important number. But again, it's lying season. We have no idea what's actually going to happen. It should be fun. Okay, I'm going to go back to the well for my stock up because I've been doing this every week. You know who I'm going with. Juju Watkins. USC beats undefeated UCLA. Unbelievable. She's insane. 38 points, 11 rebounds. Amazing. 8 blocks. She is everything. I feel like we're headed into March. The women's tournament, once again, is probably going to be higher profile than the men's tournament. I want to stake my claim as a Juju Watkins super fan. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, I mean, she's amazing. The blocks are the thing that's like hard to get over. So good. All right, well, if the stock's going to go up, then the stock's got to go down.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is stock down. And that is getting roasted on SNL, and that's what happened to Bill Belichick.
Last week, a U.S. appeals court blocked a Biden-era student debt relief plan, which means the only way for young people to pay off their student loans is by dating Bill Belichick.
I mean, like, I know people kind of think I don't know how people think, but it would be one thing if he was dating someone who was like 30 years old or even 40. Like, that would be kind of odd. But she's 24. I just, even for all the people who are like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. It's like, is it awesome? Is it awesome?
People think it's awesome.
Something.
Who thinks it's awesome?
Probably other guys in their 70s.
No. Yeah, maybe. I don't think guys look at. You would think, oh, she's a very pretty young woman. Like guys would respect Bill Belichick. This is just the ick factor is pretty universal on this. I've never heard somebody say, "Wow, that's awesome." Have you?
I mean, I guess there's probably the picky, like, good for him response, but like I would hope that if I was Bill Belichick in this same situation, that I'd have the self-awareness that it just doesn't. Like, there's no way she likes him. He's not even a handsome old man.
Oh, no, but he's rich.
Actually, no, I think he's doing okay.
He's not in great shape.
No, when he was sneaking out of her house.
He's got bigger moves than me.
When he was sneaking out of her house this summer, shirtless.
Again, sneaking out of her house this summer is not a thing we should be saying about him.
Yeah, I thought he looked okay shirtless. This is a weird conversation. You know the video I'm talking about when it first came out that Bill Belichick?
We all know what you're talking about.
I thought he handled himself for 73.
I don't know.
Guy sits on the stationary bike and reads the playbook. Isn't that his famous thing? Guy's got a set on him.
Bill Parcells' face card definitely declines. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, and one of the pictures from Super Bowl week where she was walking around with her trash talking T-shirts, like it was a side shot, and there was a lot of. He was thick. He's thick. I was gonna say girth. That's not the right word. Yeah,
a man's ear.
There's a lot from front to back. There's a lot. He's in good shape for his age, I guess, but like
the bulge.
Not to be drawing in 27-year-old hotties.
If she was 27, that'd be cool. She's 24.
24-year-old hotties.
Yeah, it feels like Bill Belichick has figured out a lot of football things. His personal life has always been a little, little questionable.
Can't have it all. And now he's going to be on off-season Hard Knocks because the Giants embarrassed themselves so much that no team will now agree. So here comes to do this off-season Hard Knocks again. So here comes Bill Belichick, the 33rd NFL team, according to him, and it's going to be North Carolina's off-season Hard Knocks.
I appreciate the question. I really do.
Yeah, what a disappointment. Last year, we had the Giants screwing up the Saquon Barkley thing. What can you possibly see on an off-season Hard Knocks?
Can we just focus on the fact that the Giants ruined the TV franchise?
Well, and it's funny because the funniest part about it to me is that the Giants always refuse to do the training camp Hard Knocks, which is essentially one big commercial, 4-year program, and instead did off-season like, haha, we're going to show everyone how smart we are. Well, how's that going?
Saquon Barkley.
All right.
Stock up.
My stock down.
Oh, excuse me, stock down.
Yeah, my stock down. And I thought you were going to jump on this one first. The quarterbacks at the combine, but specifically the Ohio State quarterback, Will Howard, reportedly had the worst combine. You know what? I am a big believer that nothing that really matters. In this case, everyone knows Will Howard on tape. Guy's been playing college football forever. I don't think it's going to affect him one way or the other. I think the NFL had this view. But he was pretty bad. Talking about thick, like he needs to hit a gym and get a little more rip in those sleeveless quarterback shirts. I was thinking that. I thought I saw him do a couple interviews. I think he seems like a mature guy. I think this whole fall for him is a little overrated, but it's definitely stock down because he is getting killed for his bad combine performance.
Yeah, my girth is rather large.
Hold on one second. You think he sounded mature? I just hate to rewind the show a couple weeks when you really, really were merciless on Will Howard because his mom came to stay with him after he blew the game at Oregon.
Oh yeah, he's a little baby. Yeah, but generally no. But I thought I actually watched
Whiplash.
his interview. Yeah, that specific thing. But I watched his interviews. He seems fine to me. I don't think this Will Howard fall is happening because of his combine. Although he was pretty lousy.
Yeah, I can't tell if maybe he's one of those guys that's like a bad practice player but good in the games, or because you're saying the NFL has really figured him out like they see on tape. It was kind of a mixed bag, quite frankly. But he put together a great run, won a national championship, so you know on a big stage he can come through.
I think he was a fourth-round quarterback all along. Third or fourth round, which isn't bad. Kirk Cousins was a fourth-round pick. Russell Wilson was a third-round pick. And I guess people are saying maybe he'll fall even lower now. And some people thought he'd be a first-rounder. I think, don't you think teams don't care about this combine stuff and all they care about is the tape? I think that's 100% of the game.
Yeah.
I don't think they care at all what he looks like in shorts.
I think that that's what they should care about.
I don't think, especially with quarterback now, I think they're savvy enough to know you have to understand what this guy's going to be like when the pass rush is coming at him. Because everybody can throw the ball 60 yards.
Let's do another quick round here. Stock up, stock down. I'm going to go stock up. That's Jalen Milroe's hand exercises.
That's ridiculous.
Somehow, over the course of 3 weeks, Jalen Milroe's hands grew an inch. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, there are exercises, but I feel like he wasn't stretching hard enough at the Senior Bowl.
Well, why? I mean, you'd think that doesn't seem like it's that taxing, and you know you're getting measured, so why wouldn't you try to stretch as much as possible? Is this like a cracking your knuckles thing? How do you make your hands look bigger?
I need much. Is this a Neil deGrasse Tyson question? I don't this does not make any sense to me that he went and critically crossed the apparently important 9-inch threshold.
Yeah.
5/8 of an inch growth in 3 weeks of any part of your body seems unhealthy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was a ½ inch. It wasn't a full inch.
How does this happen? Unless he put his hand like a claw originally. He's like, I should spread my fingers out. I don't understand how you can do this.
I don't know. Can you have like HGH for your hands or something? I'm not sure.
You could do stretching exercises. Like every day you do these stretches. I remember we had a guest on the DP show explained it. You can definitely work on your flexibility in your hands so you can stretch it out for him.
Okay, so you think 3 weeks before the Senior Bowl, where his hands like these little baby hands?
like what's her name on SNL?
By the way, still didn't get to 9 inches, right?
No, he crossed 9 inches.
I got his measurements right here.
What was it?
Me too.
It's 9 3/8.
Yep.
So there you go.
Okay, I'll do my stock up. Did anybody see Armand Membu run? I don't know who this is, but he's the Missouri tackle.
Yeah.
He weighs about 400 pounds. He ran a 4.91, and everyone's like, he's going top 8. I am a huge fan of massive human beings running at huge speeds. He had a 34-inch vertical, a 9.7 broad jump, and if that guy is a pound under 350, then I am surprised. He is sort of the new offensive tackle hottie because he had these crazy, crazy numbers.
Yeah, and he was like screaming while he was running the 40, which was kind of funny. My last stock down, and this is not one that has to do with sports. It's a message to all servers and waiters out there. Just write down the order. Just write it down. So stock up pad and pen. Stock down your memory. Had this great dinner on Saturday night, surprise birthday party for my mom, whose birthday is Wednesday, so happy birthday, Pam. My brother flew in from Mexico, go out to dinner. My kid was super well behaved, like everything was going awesome. Except our waiter was heat checking himself like Steph Curry from mid-court, trying to remember everyone's order, and he just screwed a lot of things up.
No way.
Wanted the Caesar salad guy, not the side and gnocchi. Like, those are two very different things. And a lot of other stuff. So, please, I was a waitress for a long time. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. Just write it down.
Isn't that the restaurant's fault, though? They definitely letting him shoot. It's like when someone lets J.R. Smith get too many shots up. It's like someone needs to tell him to pass the ball.
Well, apparently his uncle owns the place. We got the whole backstory, but I don't care. I just want you to write down.
Oh, it's definitely the restaurant's fault then.
Wait, has anybody else ever had a guy not write it down and bring a side of gnocchi instead of a Caesar salad? Because I've had a lot of Raiders do that. Never have they screwed up.
Yeah,
at all.
This is a bad rep for waiters.
I'd rather have the pasta than the salad, but that's just me.
Well, we had a lot of other pastas. So, and we had another gnocchi dish. So I'm like, you think we're ordering 2 gnocchis? 2.
There's never enough gnocchi, Maggie.
I mean,
I believe
fair,
that's pronounced
but...
Ganaki, by the way, but whatever.
Yeah, by the way, you lost us all on gnocchi. That sounds amazing.
Well, it was very good, but it's a balance. We're ordering family style, and so we had it really thought out. You have a steak dish, you've got a fish dish, you've got a pasta, and we wanted also a big salad.
Honestly, I feel like gnocchi sounds better than it actually tastes. It's a little overrated.
Yeah, I don't love it.
I really want to like it. I love potato and I like pasta. Not my thing.
Anyway, servers, just write it down. Just write it down.
Yeah. I'm out on this anti-gnocchi take. What are you guys, crazy?
Meanwhile, I'm still so full, and Perloff doesn't believe me when I'm like, I ate a huge meal on Saturday, so it made me even hungrier on Sunday because my stomach had expanded. You're like, that's an old wives' tale. Like
McMuffin or something like that.
I don't think so, man. I think that's science.
Yeah, that sounds like hardcore science right there.
Folks, what's going on in the world today?
Guys,
That's science.
It is. Your stomach expands, and then you got to fill it with more things.
Did Bill Nye, the science guy, come up with that?
Yeah. He should have.
The Lakers just keep rolling. They've now won 6 straight, 16 of 19 after last night's visit from the Clippers, a 108-102 final. J.J. Redick got 29 points and 9 assists from Luka Doncic.
He played fantastic tonight. And again, it was that verve and that spirit. Maybe it's an inner demon, I don't know, but it comes out, and it's fantastic for us when it does.
LeBron threw in 17 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists last night, despite another off-court distraction. LeBron and his team in the crosshairs of our colleague, David Shepard, who recently requested an interview with LeBron but hasn't heard back from the Lakers yet.
The people that are in charge of that particular organization, in terms of the relationship with the media, they then don't get back to people that want to do good stories on the Lakers. That's a shame. Can't have it both ways, LeBron. Can't use your soapbox to call out falsely an entire industry. And when that industry then wants to empathize with what you're saying and really wants to understand where you're coming from, it's met with a Heisman's arm stiff.
Okay, so stiff arm, first of all. Second of all, that was from David's show, which began Saturday night, went to yesterday morning. And I think the bigger problem is that it's Shep asking for LeBron, not the Lakers hiding from the media.
Listen, you got to put in the ask. But here's the question. When's the last time LeBron did a one-on-one radio interview?
Yeah, right.
I think Miami. I don't think you have to go back to Miami days.
Cleveland, for sure, he used to do them. But
The second time around?
No, not the second time.
Yeah, I was going to say,
the
the first stint. But I think he did like an interview in Miami with local radio probably when he went there. He doesn't do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, I got to give Shep huge credit. To email John Black and say, "Can I have LeBron?" That's bananas because the Lakers are.
Yeah.
They're tough. They are not polite about their turndowns.
No, I know, but you got to kind of know that you're Shep, right? Like, I mean, I have standing requests for Michael Jordan, Magic, LeBron, Dave Matthews. They're all Eddie Vedder. No response, but I still love them all because I'm nobody.
What's that? Yeah, it's
Listen,
funny.
I like the shooting your shot part of it, but you can't be that surprised they don't get back to you. They don't get back to a lot of people.
Yeah, I recently put out a request for Barack Obama in the White House and it's gone back to me. I'm so upset.
Yeah.
I'm only saying this because
challenge there.
Recent. I'm only saying this because it's out there. I don't want to ruin any of our chances to getting any Lakers. But Todd Fritz was the booker for the Dan Patrick Show, and he used to read John Black's emails on the air because he would. I'm telling you, like it's not a normal PR situation. Yeah. He would be outright rude. He'd be like, "Todd, are you kidding me?"
He'd be like, first of all, how dare you?
Yeah. No, he actually was. He would book John Black. I think it's John Black would give us guys all the time, but generally, like Todd would. God bless him, send in a note for give us Anthony Davis on 12 hours notice. And he'd be like, Todd, are you serious? What is your problem? like a friend would say to another friend, but it is hard to get Lakers and LeBron.
I feel like the Nike Shield agents will show up to Shep's apartment in 5 seconds after getting that email.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, right? Because it's not like the guys aren't available. If you go to a Laker game or if you go when they come to New York or wherever they are, like you can get some availability. It's only going to be after the game though, not before. They don't do that anymore.
Well, I'm looking.
No, there's before.
Yeah, but guys aren't not LeBron.
Maybe not record, but I mean, we've had LeBron a couple of times when there's been like news things. He's talked about it beforehand. But yeah, I don't think he has to be there.
Yeah.
But you could go and stake him out and try to get 90 seconds of your question because Shep also because he's so generous was only asking for 3 minutes. and promised to be positive with LeBron and still got no
3
response.
minutes.
I know.
Promise to be positive.
Yeah.
Someone's take from there. 3 minutes and positive. I don't know which one to go with.
Because this is like a 4-minute soliloquy on why he wanted to talk to LeBron, what he wrote. They played sound effects of crickets because he got no response. So I had to condense this for us down to 35 seconds. But yeah, he wanted 3 minutes and he promised to be positive about LeBron and the way the game is being covered.
I too want 3 minutes of LeBron's time.
I'm looking at the Lakers roster. Is there anybody that Shep we could help him with? Is Cam Reddish, who's usually a DMP coach, can he get Cam Reddish for the Lakers? Maybe.
How about Anthony Davis?
Shake Milton's a Laker. I didn't even know that.
Does Shep know Japanese? Can you talk to Rui Hachimura?
Who do you think would be harder to book right now, LeBron or Bronny? I think they're probably shielding Bronny quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think Bron's harder. Is easier to get.
Yeah.
I don't
By
think anybody
default,
talks
yeah.
I don't
So
think anybody talks to
actually,
Bronny.
that's a good point. Bronny's not doing any interviews. I haven't noticed one way or the other.
Doubt it.
Jackson Hayes.
He's gotta be the hardest G League player to ever talk to. Maybe the history of the NBA.
Oh, you can sit down with any of those guys and get their life story, but not Bronny.
Yeah, I mean there are guys who've played in the NBA that are in the G League that you could probably get a better chance of talking to.
No doubt.
Anthony Edwards last night scored 44 points in the T-Wolves 116-98 win in Phoenix, a career-high 41 from Jalen Williams in the Thunder's 146-132 win in San Antonio. And Manny's favorite team won last night.
Here comes JT Miller as he skates with Cooley. Finds Keandre Miller with a backhanded score! Wow. What a pretty play by Keandre Miller. Miller to Miller, 3-0 Blue Shirts.
And Manny Pucks smiles. Don LaGreca, Rangers Radio, New York.
Donnie LaPucks. Manny Pucks loves Donnie LaPucks.
New York, a 4-0 win over Nashville. They've taken 6 of 9. They are 2 points out of a wild card spot. And former Mets GM Billy Epler hired as a special advisor to the Brewers front office. Epler was suspended for last season, don't forget, for misusing the IL while in New York.
Oh, right.
Guys, back to you.
I'd love to say that was a low moment, but it really wasn't. There was so many more. 855-212-4227. All right, see you guys on the phones. Want to get to you, and we promise that we will. Coming up, though, we also have to get into one guy was surprisingly quiet this weekend at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. What do we read into that? Get to it next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
This is The Good Shepherd on CBS Sports Radio.
Your love lifted me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire, and I'll be at your side forevermore. You know your love keep on lifting higher, higher and higher.
This is The Good Shepherd on CBS Sports
2 minutes
Radio.
remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray and Perloff. We get more into our observations from the scouting combine in just a moment. So we had a big one of somebody we thought was going to be center stage, Pearl, but was nowhere to be found. In the meantime, we go to our pal Jay in Nashville. Jay, I'm curious if you agree with me or disagree with me. Last segment, we did our M&P 500, stock up, stock down, and I said stock down on waiters and waitresses who do not write down the order, because we had one of those over the weekend, and it didn't, make our dinner worse, but he got the order wrong in a couple different instances when he could have just written it down.
I think that it depends on what restaurant it is. I used to wait tables in Atlanta for a long time, and I didn't write it down because I was working at Applebee's and TGI Fridays, you know what I mean? You pretty much know mozzarella sticks, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when I started working for an high-end Italian restaurant, really, I was waiting tables at an Italian restaurant owned by a German dude, which was the weirdest thing. But once you get in like an Italian restaurant, you better write that order down because there's so many like intricacies, so many different things.
Guten Tag.
Say go ahead. You were breaking up.
No, this is exactly where we were. We were at a high-end Italian restaurant, and the guy's not writing the order down, and he got it mixed up. And I think it's and I was a waitress for a long time too, and I actually think I was really good at it, Pearl. But I always wrote it down because I've got 15 tables I got to take care of. I may not remember your dressing on the side, and I don't know. I don't think it's a weakness to write down the order.
You had 15 tables?
Yeah, I mean sometimes the lunch crush would get real busy.
Wow.
Man, where the hell was you working at? They gave you 15 tables?
I'm just saying, guys. I don't know. Okay, maybe it was more like 10. But I'm writing it down.
I hope
look,
so.
like I said, at a high-end Italian restaurant, you better write that order down because it's high-end people.
Yeah.
And, like, you want to
spend a
get
lot
that
of money.
high-end tip.
Yeah.
So, like, you can forget to put a lemon in that water. It's like, oh, well, that's $5 off this tip, you know. You go down like that. But, I mean, but yeah, waiting tables was really fun, especially after the shift is over and everybody get together somewhere. Everybody's feet hurt, tired, or whatever, get some drinks, whatever. That was probably the funnest part of it. But like, yeah, if you're working at like Waffle House or something like that, you know, it's I mean, you can write it down and not write it down, but I mean, if you know you're gonna get the order and go straight to the back, and you know, if you forget to order that fast, and yeah, you need to take some Adderall or something.
Jay, you
know
just
what I
got to
mean?
write it down. Thank you for the call. I think even if you're working at a fast food, whatever, what's an Applebee's, like fast casual, you know,
Muffin or something like that.
Yeah.
And I actually would say that between waiting tables and bartending, I actually liked bartending a little bit better. But that's crazy. You're talking about a crush and having to remember drink orders and stuff like that. It's a little bit easier, but man, you will not have hours go by quicker than if you are tending bar. Like I used to tend bar in New York City, talking about Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, when it's like 6 deep at the bar and you're just, it's the time just evaporates.
Right. But I would hope you'd go one at a time in that situation.
Yeah, you do have to take one order at a time.
Yeah, it's so funny. I've never had this situation. I don't think I go to maybe as many high-end restaurants. I've never had this waiter not writing down situation.
Really?
That's incredible.
You've never had a waiter not write down?
I had a waiter not write it down, but I felt like they had a system and the food came out fine. I've never had a problem with it. You guys, everyone's had what happened to Maggie, where they confuse things?
I can't recall if there was a person who particularly didn't write it down and then screwed up. Like, I don't know if I kept note of that, but I definitely have plenty of waiters who don't write it down. And, I always notice. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Some restaurants
some
fancy restaurants only give you like 3 or 4 choices, right? Where
This was not one of those places. It's a full-on menu and specials and all of that stuff.
There's this place in Mexico where the guy writing it down, it's like a rumor to this guy. He keeps it all in his head. But, I mean, it's also a place where he sells 5 things and beer.
Okay. Right. A little bit different.
A little bit.
I'm just saying, like, is it about you or is it about me when I go to a restaurant? It's about me. It's not about you. So, what's the number one thing? Get the order correct and write it down. I'm not going to dock you a tip because you wrote it down. In fact, I do the opposite.
Yeah, I've never given somebody a better tip because they didn't write it down.
No way.
Ever. I've
It's
never
not the SATs, man. Yeah. It's dinner.
Yeah, they think it's a slam dunk contest. It's like, oh, if I jump over a car, maybe I'll get a better tip.
George is in L.A., wants to talk about the quarterback carousel. George, you got your quarterback returning. How do you feel about it?
Well, it's okay. I mean, I could go either way, to be honest with you right now with Stafford. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a great quarterback. I think the Rams did this just to intentionally get it out of the way. 2 years. They haven't come out with all the information yet, but I think this is his last contract with the Rams. Either way, 2 years and go from there. And if we win, something great. If we don't, we'll move on anyway. But so it starts the carousel with Aaron Rodgers and everybody else. I was going to make a quick side comment if I could real quick. Have you been in Northern Italy to Turin?
I have. I actually covered the Olympics there. I was a production assistant.
Yeah, up there's a lot of Germans, so it could be German and Italian both up there, if you know what I mean. Just a side comment.
Yeah, that's fair. The food in Turin was delicious. And the Olympics is going back to that area of the world next winter, right? Pearl, 2026. George, thanks for the call. Isn't it Milan? Milan and Turin are really close to each other.
How would I know? I could care less about the Winter Olympics.
Perloff always says that.
I hate the Winter Olympics.
You said you hated the Summer Olympics, and then you were very into it.
Well, after the Four Nations tournament, you got hockey in the Winter Olympics to look forward to.
Perloff was on vacation during the Four Nations.
The last Winter Olympics was a nightmare I think it was the last one when basically was that when it was in China and everyone was waiting for it to be over so they could invade Ukraine? That was like the worst sporting event I've ever been anywhere near.
Was that the last one?
I think was that 2022? Yeah.
Might have been.
Sounds about right.
That was not good.
Yeah, that one was awful.
Well, also
Milan
the time difference
better.
is not great for us when it's in China.
True.
Wow, that's the least of the problems.
Well,
but yeah.
I was going to say, selfishly, unless you keep hours like us, for regular people, it's not great.
I'm not great about. I don't like tape delay either.
No, me neither.
Now, when did they decide to make the Winter Olympics and Summer Olympics in different years? You've covered a few of them.
Yeah, they actually, I think they had Albertville and Lillehammer like close together just to make sure they got them off the cycle to make sure that they were staggered again.
Look at you knowing all the Winter Olympic sites.
I have no idea if that's true.
See, you don't even know XL. Maggie knows everything about Olympics.
We all have our strengths. 855-212-4227. Does it annoy you when a waiter doesn't write down the order? And we'll talk Cowboys next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
In the world of sports talk, under digital skies, lives a fan named Ostrich Eyes 87 with a heart twice the size. He logs on to Twitch where the streams flow like dreams to catch every word from the man of his means.
Hey there, LeBron, you're moving kinda slow, but your golden retrievers ready for the show.
In Peter Bellatti's world, it's always a Tom Hanks scene. From Big to Castaway, he's the fan club dean. In his living room, it's a movie.
Peter Bellotti, he's a man of many tastes, but he's got a debt, and it's not going to waste. Andrew Bogusch is waiting, he's been oh so kind for that well-seasoned steak. It's been on his mind. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well-seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. Andrew Bogusch's been patient, but he's starting to drool, thinking about that steak. Oh, it's making him cool. Peter Bellotti, don't delay. It's time to make amends. Cook up that steak, and they'll be the best of friends. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well, seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. A dash of salt, a pinch of pepper, garlic and herbs, oh it couldn't get better. Sizzle on the grill, make it medium rare. Peter Bellotti, show Andrew you care. Peter Bellotti owes Andrew Bogusch a steak, oh yes he does. Well, seasoned, juicy, with all the flavors he loves. It's time to fire up the grill, make no mistake. Peter Bellotti, it's time to bake that steak. So let's end this saga with
1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're asking me somebody who's feeling very uncomfortable this morning. It's got to be the brass at the Las Vegas Raiders. Welcome to the show, Maggie. Great. Andrew Perloff. Pearl, they were in hot pursuit of Matthew Stafford. Ski vacations, the whole deal. And then Stafford decides to re-sign with the Rams on Friday afternoon, evening. And so now the Raiders have to be thinking, what's our plan B? What's our plan C? None of them are going to look probably as good as Stafford.
Right.
But you have the 6th overall pick. You do have some money to spend, but the draft is not a guarantee. And all the veterans out on the market, well, I can poke holes in every single one of those guys' resumes, and I'm not too excited about any of those guys either.
Well, yeah, but when is there a free agent quarterback that you can't poke holes in? If a guy's at the peak of his game and is 29 and killing it, he's not going to be a free agent. So that's what happens with older free agent quarterbacks. By the way, you're stating the way you said that made it sound like they paid for Matthew Stafford's ski vacation and they brought him out specifically to ski. And that was like, you've already assumed, you've made the narrative that Tom Brady invited Stafford out to Yellowstone Club in Montana.
Yeah. I'm Team Jordan on this one. Yeah, no, I don't think there are any coincidences. Jordan Schultz was the one who broke that story, and then it was refuted by Ian Rappaport, and then the two almost came to blows in a Starbucks in Indianapolis, which you just can't make it up. But
so
no,
you're saying
I think they were trying to wine him and dine him a little. I think they were trying to sell him in person. Which is a smart idea by the Raiders.
But by the way, okay, I was really against the Giants signing Matthew Stafford. I thought it was crazy to use all that cap space and maybe some draft capital to get up for a guy who's not going to help you win anything more than 9 games. Same thing is true with the Raiders. What was Matthew Stafford going to do for this team? You said last week that a return to respectability is worth it. Mm-hmm. But the opportunity cost of a return to respectability is your salary cap's all messed up on Matthew Stafford, and you don't have a future quarterback. In 2 years, where are you?
Well,
you're back to Aiden O'Connell.
I think that they would say, we'll figure that out in 2 years.
Well, they won't. That's the thing. Like, how are they going to figure it out? There's no figuring it out. You're in limbo forever.
Well, or you decide you want to take a quarterback. Maybe you do like somebody, but you like him more like a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick. You know, Pete Carroll has a history, in terms of finding Russell Wilson late in the draft when they were with Seattle. Maybe John Schneider, but you know what I'm saying? Like developing a lower quarterback, a lower drafted quarterback. Tom Brady is obviously the most famous example. But no, I'm not saying Tom Brady is walking through that door. I'm just saying I bet this front office may be confident that they could groom somebody while Stafford would bring them back to respectability. And I did think that was a big thing of that's what they're looking at. Listen, the Raiders have not gotten off of, hey, we're going to win now. We're going to be competitive now. So clearly they've got something up their sleeves. Or this is just a whole lot of hot air.
Well, it's very hard to develop a late round quarterback. It rarely happens.
I get that.
I don't understand the win now mentality, except for Pete Carroll's age. And that's, the more you say it, the more the whole plan doesn't make sense to me. And we have this big show argument. You have much more faith in Tom Brady, where I have no faith in him because I've never seen him be a team builder. I have no idea if he could do that. I do know that all the other GOATs are bad at it. I know Jordan was bad at it. I know Jeter was bad at it. So why do we think Tom Brady, again, I know you're always giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's the smartest player I've ever seen. He's a great interview. He was as a broadcaster, getting better.
Yeah.
But why do we have any clue? Why do we give the Raiders a benefit of the doubt? He's never built a team before, and he's in a very hard situation. I'm not sure there's any answer for the Raiders. I think they're in a tough spot.
Well, Pete Carroll admitted over the weekend that he talks to Tom Brady every day. So whatever you think, like Brady is very, very, very much involved here. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until I see it fail, unless he becomes the next Jeter or becomes the next Michael Jordan. I mean, John Elway is a little more of a mixed bag. But I guess what I would say is they now probably have to look at Shedeur Sanders, who is apparently like, I don't want to say dropping. Like, how would you characterize this? The stories coming out of the draft this week is that Cam Ward has really separated himself away from Shedeur Sanders. Neither guy threw. Neither guy did any drills. They didn't do anything.
Well, I think the more accurate narrative is the reporters all found out that the NFL views Cam Ward as more of a number one overall than Shedeur.
And some of the good tape guys like Greg Cosell and others who we played clips of last week have been saying that. So, okay, maybe the rest of the league catches up. But this is a supply and demand thing. So if you're telling me that, okay, it's Cam Ward obviously one, and then, space, and then Shedeur, that still means Shedeur could go 2 to Cleveland, Pearl, because Cleveland needs a quarterback. So I guess if I'm the Giants, at least I'm picking at 3. I would have to trade less to get up to 1 or 2 if the picks are even available. If I'm the Raiders, can I really just say, all right, we're going to roll the dice and see if Shedeur's still there at 6?
I mean, I think you're going to have to possibly, because it's going to take a lot to get up to number 1. I find the whole thing very fascinating. Cam Ward is going to go number 1 overall. I think that's because Abdul Carter has some injuries.
Yep.
Travis Hunter doesn't have a position. So it seems to me that Cam Ward is going number 1. Now, you brought up a great question. We don't know exactly which team it is. Someone could trade up. So that leaves Cleveland at number 2. Unless they trade up, they're looking at Shedeur Sanders or no one. And Adam Schefter reported on his podcast, he said, there's one thing I am certain of in this draft. He said one thing, Maggie.
Whoa, what?
That the Cleveland Browns are drafting a quarterback with a number 2 pick.
Okay, well, then there it is. Then the draft's over after the 2 picks. And then we'll see where Travis Hunter goes and some other interesting
I think he was wrong. He said this a week ago. I think he might have been wrong about that. And it's weird the way he said it. He was so certain. He's like, the Browns are taking quarterback. But then you have all these reports that the NFL does not view Shedeur as a number 2 overall kind of player. I think he's there for the Raiders. I don't know what the Browns do. I don't see them getting Shedeur. Now I don't think Shedeur Sanders is number 2. Just based on the reporting, the same reporting you saw, that he's just not viewed that way by the NFL. I kind of like Shedeur. I think he's got a lot of personality. He made something out of nothing a million times in Colorado. How many times did we see the pass rush get to him immediately? Him scramble around and find some guy 30 yards downfield. I don't think he's the next Jaden Daniels, but I think he's good. And like we're talking about the Raiders, they just need good right now, right? Do they need... I mean, if you're not going to get possibly Matthew Stafford, isn't a Geno Smith, would you draft a young Geno Smith? Would you draft a young Kirk Cousins and have competent play for a while?
I would, but again, am I trading up? Do I think he's going to be there at 6? Like, if you go, it's just, you can't, there's no sure things when it comes to the draft except for Tennessee because they're drafting first. Let's hear a little from Shedeur Sanders. This was him at the podium at the Combine. He says his experience of turning around both Colorado and Jackson State will help an NFL franchise.
I've been through 6 different OCs, so I'm able to adjust to any offense and every scheme and make it work. We went from Jackson State to Colorado and changed 2 programs back to back. So you don't think I could come to an NFL franchise and change the program again? It's history. We done it again. It's always going to repeat itself.
It's interesting. First of all, I think Dion gets all the credit for turning around programs, but maybe Shedeur should get some because he definitely stabilized the quarterback position, which we know is so important. The only thing about that...
Do you believe that?
I get the confidence, but again, like the Big 12 is not the NFL. And that's not a disrespect to the Big 12.
The SWAC is definitely not the NFL.
Well, yeah, and Jackson State and the SWAC is definitely not. And listen, there's a reason why a lot of these teams picking at the top of the draft, Pearl, are bad and have been bad for a long time. And yeah, quarterbacks can come in and change it, but that's a tall order to ask to, to completely reset a culture and all of this stuff at an NFL level. I know he said history could repeat itself, but you're up against way more obstacles. You've got ownership. You've got veterans on the team who are under contract and entrenched there. It's just a completely different calculus.
Right, but I think you have to take a leap when you look at any college prospect. If that is a very valid point. He came into a program and immediately stabilized them. Yeah, of course, Colorado didn't play an NFL schedule, but nobody did. Cam Ward, his schedule was terrible.
Sure.
I mean, he played a Syracuse defense that I could have put up 45 points against and lost the game, ironically. So I don't think that's a really necessarily the total story. Just to say, because they didn't play a great schedule. I think everything he's saying is true. I think he's got a huge personality. Maybe a team is looking for that. Maybe they're looking for all the smoke and all the noise and the podcasts. I think it'd be smart for Cleveland to take him for all that, because anything to get all the news headlines off of Deshaun Watson would be a great idea. But there's also the argument that Cleveland doesn't want all that because they've had a very tricky quarterback situation. Maybe they want something a little quieter.
No, I think they would want it. I mean,
you think they want the noise?
Yeah, I mean, what makes a fan base more hopeful than anything? Like a young rookie quarterback? Oh my gosh, you can't buy that kind of publicity. You can't buy that kind of hope. You know, and especially one who's as famous as Shedeur.
I agree.
Especially if Deion signs off on it and gives his blessing, then I think you're looking at something really exciting. I mean, the last time we were really talking about the Browns in a meaningful way was when Baker Mayfield went there and made them a lot more exciting.
I totally agree. And I think Kevin Stefanski, the coach, would be a great fit for Shedeur. He's got Njoku. He's got Jerry Jeudy. He probably won't have Nick Chubb. I imagine that's done. And he's got all these old offensive linemen. That's a win. I think that's actually a win a little bit now. Like they could go 8-9 with Shedeur.
Well, let's see what happens with Myles Garrett. Yeah, EJ, you look like you want to say something.
I mean, the question I would have, because I agree with all that, though, is we saw the question with Caleb Williams about what happens when he walks into an NFL locker room. Like you had, who was it? Jalen Johnson, who was like, he's going to come in and fit in,
Right.
And to me, Caleb Williams is like 10% of what Shedeur Sanders is bringing to the table in terms of all the attention and hoopla and the self-promotion. So my question is, like, how does he fit with an NFL locker room? If he's coming in and already saying, like, hey, I'm just going to come somewhere and just turn things around. Like, that's just how it works when I show up.
Right.
Like, is this a Cam Newton situation again where he's like, I'm going to a place with a bunch of losers, and when I show up, now we're going to win? That's the one thing I do worry about a little bit because he was feeling himself during his press conference.
Yeah. I mean, Cam backed it up.
Cam certainly did.
Wait, was Cam a good one or a bad?
No,
Is
Cam
that a
was
good
good.
example or a
Cam
bad
was good.
example?
Like, Cam was the number 1 overall pick going away,
But Cam's play backed it up.
Exactly.
Like Shedeur saying, I just show up and I'm going to be a certain guy. And I'm like, well, in the locker room, will they accept that? If it takes him a little time to get his ropes and get his feet underneath him. Like, Cam came in and threw 4,000 yards. Like, is Shedeur doing that year one?
Well, the other part, too, is I think everyone really respects Deion, but he's not going to be in that locker room. It provides you a little bit of cover when your dad is Deion, right?
Definitely.
But again, Deion is so legendary that the guys who are in this pro locker room, I think, are going to respect him, but he's going to be tested in a different way.
But I think Shedeur is a pro. I mean, you have a good point. He grew up around the NFL. Doesn't feel like he's going to have any maturity issues to me. He's 23. I think he'd be just fine in all the intangible stuff. He's got a great personality. Also, again, this is a pretty good little offensive unit there. Remember Flacco got in there last, as long as Deshaun's not playing quarterback, we've seen some guys have some big games there. I think 4,000 yards doesn't feel overly aggressive to me there. You think that'd be out of control successful?
I get the impression that he's going to maybe take a year to get his feet underneath him. I mean, did Caleb go 4,000 yards this year? Caleb was playing with Pro Bowlers.
But he's a Bears quarterback.
Pro Bowl receiver. Like, it's a Browns
Being
quarterback.
The Browns quarterback is a death sentence.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
there's been some big seasons in Cleveland. I few at least. There's been nothing. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer ever in the history of the franchise.
I get it. I do
when was
wonder.
the last big Browns quarterback?
Well,
season?
Flacco was so good. Mayfield
For
had a couple
half a
big years.
season, Mayfield had a good year. They beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And
Derek Anderson got him to the playoffs.
Joe Flacco.
But they built this sort of really good offense, trying to get. When Baker got there, they started putting a lot of resources. They have an offensive coach. I think their offense has been okay. Like, that's not actually my biggest worry about
Baker's
them.
best season with the Browns in terms of yardage, he threw for 3,800 yards.
How many games?
16 games.
Not tops in the league. 855-212-4227. So these are just part of the dominoes that are falling now with Matthew Stafford off the table. So he re-signs with the Rams. So that means the Giants and the Raiders, who are in hot pursuit, definitely need to pivot. Strong pivot. And any of these other quarterback needy teams now have to think, okay, am I going to check the veteran market with the likes of Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or even Sam Darnold? Or do I try to go into the draft? But this draft is basically two guys, and we're not even sure if the second guy, how great he is.
How about, there's a lot of reports that the Raiders also like Milroe. How about getting a guy at the top of the second and getting a very talented player at number 6, or trading out of 6, because they have about 15 holes out of 22 roster spots. So I think there are other options too. If you're the Raiders, the whole thing is open for you. There's no, in my opinion, even though your coach is old, there should be no rush to win. You got to build a roster. If Tom Brady is this great team builder, you got to give him some time.
I would be worried that someone would trade back into the first round and jump me,
For Jalen Milroe? Yeah.
Maybe not Milroe, but I'd be worried a little about that because, you want that fifth-year option or
For sure,
all those reasons that teams jump back into the first round.
How about a guy who can fill two different holes?
855-212-4227. That was said about Travis Hunter.
Oh, that was Travis. I can't remember where that soundbite came from. Factually true, though.
That was last week.
That's another. Yeah, if Travis Hunter fell to the Raiders, oh my God, would they take that guy so fast?
Yeah.
Can you imagine him as a Raider?
I don't think that Travis Hunter would get past the Patriots.
There's no way. There's no way he gets past 4 or Jacksonville at 5. There's no way he's getting the Raiders, but wouldn't that be cool? That would be amazing.
I can see the Patriots passing on him.
Good.
For McMillan.
Oh, Tedero McMillan from Arizona, the wide receiver.
I don't know. There's some buzz that Ted McMillan might not even be the number 1 receiver anymore. But
who?
Yeah, who's topping him?
Well,
Travis.
People were saying Matthew Golden was on fire this week. I mean, Matthew Golden got a 4.3. Some people have Ted McMillan in mock drafts at 5. Others have him at 15. There's a lot of receivers, so I don't know.
I think they'd be crazy to let him fall out of the top 10.
I think it's him at the top, and then everyone else is vying for second place.
This is so stupid, but we got to see him run too, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't run. Golden from Texas did run and ran that really fast time, but then didn't do anything else. So I don't know how much this really matters.
Golden said he was going to challenge Xavier Worthy. He didn't, and Worthy was very happy about that on social media.
Wait, Golden said that? Because I remember Isaiah Bond was the one who
Bond. I'm sorry, man.
Isaiah. A couple guys said we're going to set the all-time record, and then didn't even come close. Jaden Blue said I'm going to blow away Xavier Worthy, the Texas running back. But you're right; it's just a 40. Listen. I'm just thinking like star power. You get Travis Hunter in the black and silver. Is there anybody who wouldn't buy that jersey? I'm buying it day one.
855-212-4227. Doesn't make Raider fans feel any better about the quarterback situation, though. It's like it's cool to have Travis Hunter. That's awesome, but who's throwing him the ball? I would still want to know. Let's go to Rick, who's in Sacramento. I told a story last hour about how we had this really nice birthday dinner for my mom over the weekend. Went to this fancy restaurant, and the waiter didn't write down the order and got a few things wrong. And so, Rick, you wanted to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I love your show. I listen every day.
Oh, thank you.
So I recently went to an IHOP in Sacramento for breakfast. This lady, this waitress, she's there. I've been there several times. She took an order for 8 people and didn't write anything down and got everything right. And I sat there and ate my breakfast and watched her. And then she had another party of 10, didn't write anything down and got everything right. I just think people are blessed with a good memory. And I asked her, I said, how long have you worked here? She said 25 years.
Whoa.
So I'm thinking she has that memory to memorize the menu. So what do you guys think?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I know it's an amazing skill. Right. But see, Rick, here's the thing. She knows she's got that skill. She's got 25 years in the game, right? She's proven it over and over again. Party of 8, party of 10, probably party of 12. Yes. Who knows how high this could go? The guy who is waiting on our table, I'd love to see the track record because, he was like a B-. At best,
that was a compliment, huh?
I mean, and it wasn't a cheap meal. And I'm not saying that it matters about the price, right? Because, IHOP a little bit more affordable. You just want what you want. See, that's the thing. And Rick, thanks for the call and thank you for listening and weighing in. At times, it's not even like I didn't even dock him anything on the tip. It's not about that. It's just I wanted the Caesar salad.
See, you're lucky that the men who were there were lucky that there were women there because the men would have just ate whatever we got. Like we're all afraid to go after the waiter.
Well, let me ask you a side question.
Yes.
Do you guys send stuff back?
I do not.
Yeah, I'm very cautious about sending
I've
stuff
never
back.
done that.
Okay.
I know people who do. I do not. And I worked in the restaurant industry for a long time, and from my vantage point, I never saw anyone mess with a dish. Like, I've never, ever seen that, but it still is my fear.
I don't even fear that as much. It's just, I don't know. It feels tacky to me.
Well, it depends what it is.
Like,
if it's wrong, okay, then you can send it back.
Wrong is different.
But if it's just like
no, some people are like, oh, like, this is like, this steak is not medium.
Cooked well, yeah, right.
Whatever. Like, I just.
Well, it depends. Is it, if something's raw, if it's really, really, really messed up,
course.
you got to do it.
No, that, and maybe there's a time that's happened, but like, if it's like, some people just, it's not to their liking. Like, oh, like, there's not enough cheese on this burger. There's not, again, you didn't season this correctly.
Right.
There are people who do that. And that to me is like, that's too much.
See, I like salad dressing on the side, but if it comes with the dressing on, I just eat it. Like, I'm not going to send it back and make a whole new salad.
Yeah, but there are people.
I know.
They will say, hey, send this back, make it entirely new. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not great.
The judgment, I feel. I'm not even judging them, but I know everyone else is. I'm just like, couldn't do that. Couldn't be me.
855-212-4227. Okay, lots to do, including we're asking you about dominoes that are falling for quarterbacks. What should the Raiders do at QB? Manny's waving at me. Hi, I can hear you. Throw it to break. Okay, I'm going to throw it to break. Coming up, we are excited. We're going to talk to Chris Rose, who's anchoring NFL Network's coverage of the scouting combine. We'll get his take from boots on the ground and what it was like up close and personal. Don't move. It's MMP.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie Perloff. Manny is starting off Monday with a bunch of 80s and 90s songs. Love it. Little aha. All right, Andrew Bogusch, give us some headlines.
Guys, we are not done with Jimmy Butler causing problems in Miami, apparently. A company filed suit with the now Warrior last week saying that Butler didn't pay rent and did significant damage to a luxury home he was renting in Miami Beach. The suit is looking for $260,000 in missing rent and $127K for those damages.
Damn right.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And he's paying the barista, right, Maggie?
I was going to say, how much coffee can you spill in one place that would lead to, what'd you say, $160,000 in damages?
$260 in rent, $127 in damages. Maybe the Starbucks wasn't up to code, and now they got to break it down. That's going to cost some money. I don't know.
They got a C rating by the Miami inspection.
Here, but, okay, let's just take the side of the landlord for a second here. You're Jimmy Butler. You've made gajillion dollars. Why are you not paying your rent?
I just think when Jimmy Butler gets into his mode, I'm going to be just a jerk.
Right.
It just means to everybody. So it's not just Pat Riley. It goes to probably the barista that worked for him. He probably fired his landlord. He's probably like, screw you. Like,
I'm emo.
Anybody,
Leave me alone.
I mean, that's
anybody's around
so
him, I think
immature.
you got to get into character. I think he's gotten into character. Just like John Cena. He's turned heel.
Oh, my goodness.
By the
Damn
way,
right.
that was only 2 months of rent, by the way. When I saw that price, I was like, oh, wow, he must have not paid for like a year. That's 2 months that he didn't pay, and it was $260,000.
Did you see his house from the Starting Five Netflix doc?
I mean, yeah,
But isn't that the most expensive rent in the country? Even like the high-end New York places, do they cost that much?
Right, exactly. That
also,
was
why
crazy.
don't you own your place? You're Jimmy Butler. You've been in Miami for, 7 years now? How long has he played for the Heat?
And it's Miami. Like, I get renting in, like, Cleveland because you leave and go back to Miami, like, at a season. But my guess is he's always there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. He drives around in a
it.
van in the offseason.
That's true.
Loves country music. That's legit. He follows a bunch of country acts around the country. He's an unusual guy.
Damn right.
Well, I mean, a lot of people like country music. He's from Texas, after all. But I can't imagine you wouldn't buy your place. But I don't know. Interest rates now, tough out there. What else you got, folks?
Actual basketball last night. A lot happening between the Thunder and Spurs in San Antonio.
Jalen on the handle, crossing over twice, sizing up the cell, spins down the lane, across his body goes glass, and bangs home a gorgeous 10-foot shot. Oh, JW won't be so mean.
Matt Pinto, Thunder Radio. Jalen Williams, a career-high 41 and a 146-132 OKCW. In the third quarter of this one, 3 players ejected. Lou Dort and Kenrick Williams from the Thunder, Julian Champagny from the Spurs for a minor-ish scuffle. Don't ask Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Sean Gilgeous-Alexander.
For details.
I don't know. It was a blur. I just tried to separate the blur as best as I could. But yeah, I don't even know how it started, what happened. Figure it out.
SGA scored 31 last night. His team is now 1 game behind the Cavs for the best record in the league. The T-Wolves kept the Suns struggling, 116-98 in Phoenix. Anthony Edwards scored 44, while the Suns lost for the 11th time in 14 games. And the Lakers beat the Clippers 108-102. That's 6 in a row for L.A. And the Florida Panthers have placed Matthew Tkachuk on IR with a groin injury that he suffered during the famed Four Nations face-off. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, there was some ripple effects from that Four Nations Cup. At the time, we were just like, yeah, this is awesome. It's like, oh, these guys aren't playing for a while.
Yeah, we had a guy whose like arm almost fell off because of an infection. He's probably maybe out for the rest of the regular season. A lot happened. There was some fallout.
Still cool, though.
Still loved it. Loved it.
Still loved it. Not
Except
so
for
much
the end.
For the
Yeah.
except for the end, but also not so much for, people who are in like some kind of cup chase. But it was cool. Always got those memories. Boston. All right, let's turn our attention. Thank you, Bogusch. Let's turn our attention to Indianapolis Perloff Scouting Combine. Baby. Chris Rose, an award-winning broadcaster, is anchoring so much of NFL Network's coverage from Indy, and he joins us now. Chris, thanks so much for the time. How was Indy?
It was great. It's always fun. It's amazing draft prep for all of us here at NFL Network, so hard to believe we're about 7 weeks away from Green Bay. And, I mean, the fun never stops in the NFL. 1 week from today, we got our free agency frenzy. Everybody's going to be changing teams. There will probably be some trades, probably be some extensions along the way. And then after that, it's all about the kids.
Chris, you've covered a bunch of combines. Maggie and I were talking about, I mean, it always seems like some of the guys that we want to see desperately don't work out. What is the vibe of the combine? Did we get a lot of guys working out or not a lot of guys working out? Was it more or less active than usual?
I would say that of the top end guys, like Daniel Jeremiah puts out his top 50 list. And there were a bunch in the top 10 that did not partake. Obviously, the top two quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Ashton Genty, the top running back out of Boise State, did not go. There were a couple of edge guys that didn't go, some cornerbacks. Now, listen, I think part of this is due to the extended college playoff. I think that some of these guys are just beat up. You added a few college games to some of the bigger name programs. You did see a bunch of guys from, let's say, Ohio State that passed on some of the testing, right, like the 40. But then they did end up doing the drills and performed exceptionally well. So there were a bunch of those guys as well. It is always fun to see the 40s. Those are great theater, great entertainment for us. But, listen, the most important stuff, and everybody will tell you this, and we told you this on the broadcast over the weekend, is the stuff we don't see. It's the medicals. It's the meetings with the teams. And those are probably going to be the biggest deciders in terms of guys moving up and down anyway.
Chris Rose is joining us as anchoring NFL Network's coverage of the Combine from Indianapolis, and we'll be doing much more for the draft. Also love baseball podcast, the Chris Rose Rotation. You're multi-sport, Chris, and we know that about you. It's funny because it didn't really seem like the quarterbacks were the thing this time, Chris. You got to see them up close and personal. Cam and Shedeur did not participate, as you just mentioned. Was there anyone else you were impressed by as far as the QBs? Or, I feel like the biggest thing coming out of here was that Will Howard from Ohio State didn't do that well, did not perform well. What should we know about these QBs?
Yeah, I mean, listen, those first two guys are obviously going to go high in the draft. So will there be a third quarterback that maybe a team at the top of the second round is worth jumping back in for? And I say that because if you look at the draft order, 5 of the top 7 teams don't have a solid future quarterback, right? It's Tennessee, it's Cleveland, it's the Giants, it's the Jets, and it's the Raiders. And all those teams are picking in the top 7. So which of those teams might, at the top of the second round, be willing to say, hey, we'll give that extra fifth-year option to draft a quarterback and move into a 32nd spot where Philadelphia might be, to be where Buffalo is, picking at the end of the first round, things of that nature. There were a bunch of big names that did throw on Saturday. Dylan Gabriel had more than 60 starts for Oregon. I was actually impressed with the way the ball came out of his hand. I didn't know he had that much pop. Now, he's not a big guy, right? He's 5'11", and so he's going to have to fit the needs of a specific team. But Jackson Dart has got 41 career starts. There's a guy named Tyler Shuck who played 7 years in college, was actually at one point Justin Herbert's backup at Oregon, just to tell you how long he's been around. He's got 4 degrees. He's got a big arm. He's 25 years old already. I don't think that scares off teams in today's NFL world. But there's going to be a bunch of guys, I think, that will go certainly in round 3 and possibly in round 2.
Chris, one of the quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe, magically grew his hands a half an inch.
Yes.
What was this scuttlebutt around Indy? Were you guys shocked when you saw that measurement of 9 3/8?
Well, so I'm trying to figure out how to make myself grow as well after all of these years, but also diminish in certain areas. Like if there's a hip or a waist doctor that can trim that from my time, I'm still looking for that person in Indy. That's all dealt with how they measure. And so, people aren't growing. Like Dylan Gabriel did grow I think it was maybe 3/8 of an inch in between his measurement at the Senior Bowl and his time here in Indy. It's all about the measurements, gang.
Perloff, big believer in the hand size thing. I was not.
Yeah, I get it.
Then Kenny Pickett kind of didn't really work out with the Steelers, and I was like, maybe Perloff was right.
Yeah, it's that hand. Well, I think we got past that with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's a great point. I should use him as my example. Chris Rose is joining us. Of course, love watching him. NFL Network does a fantastic job and amazing anchoring coverage from the Combine. A couple more for you, Chris. And again, thanks so much for doing this. And not to just be harping on the quarterbacks, but, we are hearing some whispers that somehow Cam Ward has really separated himself from Shedeur Sanders. And, neither guy worked out. We have nothing new to go on as far as, working out or showing us anything. So why do you think that is? Your best guess, or if you have firsthand knowledge of why and how Cam Ward has separated himself over these last few days?
It's a great question. I think people just like his skill set better, right? I mean, today's NFL world is about being able to create when you are in trouble and things of that nature. And, Shedeur, the best thing he does is stand in that pocket. He will take a hit, and he will deliver the ball. But I think that Cam Ward has probably got some traits that allow teams to say, well, when things break down, and they do at this level, because look at what the edge rushers were doing out here with the testing, because those guys are getting, faster and faster. You have to be able to keep plays alive, and you have to be able to create. If you look at the 14 quarterbacks that played in the playoffs this year, how many of them were strictly pocket passers? There weren't a lot. Stafford at his age, he's now 37. Goff, trying to think if there was anybody else that you would call strictly a pocket passer. I don't think it's too many more. So guys, even if they're not all Lamar or Josh Allen with their escapability, they have the ability to keep plays alive. And, they can kill you at times with their legs. So I think that that's probably the biggest factor, in my opinion. And I just think that when you get this many football heads in one city, that the noise gets louder.
Chris, watching NFL Network a lot this weekend, I noticed when Shedeur was on camera, a lot of people were talking to him. Felt like he had some magnetism to me, some riz, as the kids say. Did you notice Shedeur Sanders kind of drawing a lot of attention? And is that a positive or a negative?
So I think it can be debated either way, because he is so different than I think virtually any quarterback that's ever come into this league, right? I mean, he is the kid of 101. I mean, there's not a second Deion Sanders walking this planet. There just isn't. So he has constantly had a camera in his face. And, his point was when he was at the podium, he said, listen, what I do is turn programs around. I did it at Jackson State. I did it at Colorado. And I'm going to do it for some team out there. And if there are teams that pass on me, well, then that's your fault. He's got an abundance of confidence, and he's got a great jeweler, which is awesome. So,
I know. Clearly, he's taken after you, Chris, and is copying a lot of your style.
Yeah, I know. That's all right. Some of us were here before him, and he's just got to respect the OGs when it comes to that game.
It's flattery, really. It's a compliment.
Yeah. Perloff, are you wearing that right now or no?
Grill on. That's why I sound funny right now.
It's really just a Monday thing for McLovin. That's what he likes to wear.
Exactly.
Chris,
McLovin or something like that.
last one from me. And again, thanks so much for doing this. We're talking to Chris Rose from NFL Network. Also, his baseball podcast, Chris Rose Rotation, is a must listen. Best nugget you got, story, something, that was a little off the beaten path. Maybe if someone said, what's the wackiest thing you heard at the combine or something like that, what would your answer be?
Yeah, probably just the Will Howard story that that he was outside in Indianapolis a couple nights before throwing on the field, throwing deep passes in parking lots in Indianapolis. And there was a certain NFL coach that may or may not have walked by and just stopped and stood and stared and watched and probably got an extra evaluation session in late night in the streets of Indy, more than just seeing him throw it on Saturday. Maybe that's why he was a little all over the place, that he had been, throwing through parking. If he had done this in a parking lot on Saturday instead of inside of Lucas Oil, perhaps the performance would have been a bit better.
Maybe that's good for teams, with no dome. Maybe he's like, I'm just more of an outdoor guy,
That's
They're
funny.
hard to find. That could be good.
Always putting a positive spin on it. That's the way you are.
I just wonder, was that a coincidence, or was this like a Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady in Montana thing? Like a little bit, it was like kind of planned, Like was this coach just happened to be walking by, or did the agent set this up as a coincidence?
So that's a great question. With the way that people roam the streets of Indy after, stuffing their belly with great steakhouses down here, it might have just been a random. That's what I'm guessing. But in the NFL, you never know.
By the way, Chris, your cohort, Rich Eisen, made at least 150 jokes about Ian Rappaport getting in a scuffle up in a Starbucks. Did you go there during the telecast at all, or?
I would take the over on the number of whatever number the line was set at. I'm taking the over on the bit. Ian, for people that don't know, sits right next to the concourse desk that I anchor. He's literally 8 feet away. So every time that Rich and DJ would mention something, I would look over and see if I got an eye roll or something like that. I think I did once. I think I did one toss.
Yeah.
To him and said, we have an order for Ian. And I think after that, it had run its course. So I think the good news is that Rap Sheet, for the most part, won that battle at the end of the day, and hopefully we'll put this one to rest.
Well, I mean,
This is the first time I ever heard police presence.
You work with two loose cannons, and Charles Davis and Peter Schrager. I mean,
yes.
To contain those guys, because they have honestly, the two most likable people, except for yourself, in Indy. I can't. So you have the advantage of working with great dudes, and not that Ian isn't. By the way, he's a great dude as well.
Oh no, listen, even Ian with his whole bit is hilarious. When you talk to him, like I brought my son, he's a freshman at Butler. I brought him down to the combine on Saturday, and he walks past Ian. He's like, "That guy is hilarious." I'm like, "Really? You think he's funny?" And Rappaport looks up. He goes, "Of course I'm funny." That's just his whole shtick. He is, Ian doesn't mind patting himself on the back, and he should. He does a heck of a job for us, so it's always great being around him as well.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I don't want this to end between Ian and Jordan. I want round 2. I want round 3. Let's get this to an IHOP. Can we upgrade to an Applebee's? Like, is there, I want everywhere you can buy food and drinks. I want Ian and Jordan Schultz going at it. Chris Rose, you can watch him on NFL Network. You can listen and watch Chris Rose Rotation podcast. It's fantastic. Thanks for doing this, Chris. Appreciate it. Great job.
My pleasure, gang. Take care.
Okay, talk to you soon. That's Chris Rose. I need to see something bloody. Yes, I do. Even if it goes down at a Starbucks. Lots more to unpack off of what Chris said and more from the Scouting Combine next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Amazing song, Africa by Toto. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Angie Perloff. So we just had Chris Rose, who was anchoring NFL Network's coverage of the scouting combine, on last segment. If you missed it, you can always hit the rewind function on the absolutely free to download Odyssey app, or you can check out the Maggie Perloff podcast, where we would always appreciate a 5-star review. It's a small thing, goes a long way. And one of the big things that Chris said, why Cam Ward has seemingly separated himself from Shedeur Sanders, even though neither guy worked out or anything during the scouting combine, is because it looks like NFL executives, Pearl, like Cam Ward's skill set a lot more than Shedeur. Shedeur kind of more of a purely pocket passer, where Cam Ward's more of a dual threat.
Again, I understand what you're saying. Cam Ward, I think, is just a little more talented than Shedeur. And also, the ball comes out of his hand probably a little bit better than Shedeur. But I don't buy this as Shedeur is this pure pocket quarterback. It reminds me a lot of C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud never ran at Ohio State, then got to the NFL, and guess what? He can move as well as any quarterback, and except for like the Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts types. He's very mobile. So I think Shedeur actually, and I know I might be on an island on this one, can move a lot better than people think. I think he's going to scramble a lot more than you expect his rookie year.
Well, he might have to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There could be a running for your life situation, but let's be honest. There was a running for your life situation in Colorado, and he took a ton of sacks.
Yeah, but he also made a ton of plays with a terrible offensive line.
Right. So I'll go back to one thing that Greg Cosell, the talent scout, said about Shedeur, which is he was going backwards a lot at Colorado.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing you really cannot do in the NFL. Now, I don't know if he's going to end up going to a team that's got a great offensive line. Generally the bad teams don't have good offensive lines, or else other quarterbacks, like if the Raiders had this, great wall in front, then maybe Matthew Stafford would have taken them a little bit more seriously. Same for the Giants. They don't. And so I'm a little concerned that Shedeur is going to take a lot of punishment in that first season. But maybe you're right. Maybe he's got this amazing ability to scramble that we just didn't see that much in college.
Not amazing, but he can move fine. I mean, the key is getting rid of the ball. And by the way, Cam Ward runs backwards, forwards, sideways. Cam Ward holds on the ball for 11 seconds every time he drops back. So it doesn't, even if you have a mobile quarterback, if you can't protect him at all, that's trouble.
So why do you think Cam Ward now has separated himself if it's not the skill set?
Well, I mean, I think Cam Ward's just overall more I've always thought he's a more explosive quarterback. Like he's kind of like Mahomes light, right? You see plays where he's running around and he just flips it with under sort of sidearm and it goes 30 yards down the field. Shedeur doesn't have that at all.
Right.
Shedeur's got to have a base behind him and throw the ball like a normal quarterback. Cam's kind of a freak a little bit.
I think that Shedeur really models his game after Tom Brady. And listen, nobody knows if you're going to have that clutch gene like Tom Brady did, or you're going to be as smart as Tom Brady, and you can't expect him to come into the league and be that way. Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady when he first got in the league. But that's what I think. He has really tried to be the distributor, right? Like Shedeur's not the system. He's a piece of the system, which is something that you said definitely about Brady for a long time, and that he's just will always make the right 8-yard slant read, and he will slice and dice you to death.
Yeah.
Brady was not Mr. Big Arm, huge, big play guy.
But Brady was Mr. Quick Release.
Yep.
Yeah, know exactly what's going to happen before the play. I can see Shedeur developing that sort of having a mental edge.
Yep.
I mean, the problem is at Colorado, Shedeur did not do that. He held on the ball because I don't know why. Also, he had burners at Colorado. He had to let them get down the field. He was a little different. But when you hear him talk about football, he sure seems like, I agree with that, like he's kind of a cerebral quarterback. Cam Ward probably, he's just a different style. He reminds me more of the Patrick Mahomes camp, where you're just going to try to be creative and make weird plays.
855-212-4227. Yes.
One thing that Chris said that really caught my attention, and I wish I'd heard it earlier. He said that the ball came out of Dylan Gabriel, the Oregon quarterback's hand, really fast and really strong. I saw the same thing. I watched the same workout he did, and Dylan Gabriel was overthrowing guys by 30 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Cannon. And then I read all this draft review that he had to torque his body and did not have a strong arm. I'm like, well, I didn't see that. So I took down my tweet about how awesome Dylan Gabriel's arm strength was, because all the experts are like, it wasn't good. His video was crazy. He was overthrowing everybody. So I think he's got a good arm.
Do you care that he's 5'11" and 1/8?
I do care overall.
And 205 pounds.
Yes, I totally care. But I don't think that you can say that he doesn't have the arm strength, because I remember at Oregon, the ball comes out pretty hard. Like he's throwing rockets. So I do think he's interesting. I think he deserves a little more buzz, like second or third round.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. 855-212-4227.
You thought he was a first rounder during the season, and I don't think your analysis was off at all.
I thought he was going to have a season like Bo Nix did at Oregon and play himself into the first round, but that never really happened, did it? Okay, more from the Scouting Combine next.
You're in a 5-minute break.
It's time to say so long. You grumbled and groaned, but we stayed strong. With your love for old shows and your curmudgeon charm, now you're off to Amy, and we're raising the alarm. Good riddance, Pete, we'll be better off today. No more Three's Company, we're alphing our way off to Amy Lawrence, where you can grumble all night. The show will be smoother, everything will feel just right. You offered to run the White Sox, what a plan. We're running our show, you're our grumpy old man. With the NBA on NBC playing in your head, we'll carry on now without all that dread. Good riddance, people be better off today. No more Three's Company, we're alphing our way off to Amy Lawrence, where you can grumble all night. The show will be smoother, everything will feel just right. Man the boy, but always with a scowl. Now the airwaves will be free of your brow. So here's to a new day without your TV fuss. People out, you're gone, but it's good for us. Good riddance, people be better off today. No more Three's Company, we're alphing our way off to Amy Lawrence, where you can grumble all night. The show will be smoother, everything will feel just right. So long, people riding, we're glad to see you go. The vibe will be lighter, the laughter will flow. No more complaints.
On the other side of the glass, I saw a curious sight. A sea of blue and white, giant gear shining bright. But little did they know I was singing the blues, 'cause Peter Anthony Bellotti didn't show up to cruise. Peter Bellotti, where did you go? Left us hanging, don't you know? We're stuck here working while you're out to play. Peter Anthony Bellotti, come what may. Saquon's jersey, Daniels too, but none of them can fill the void left by you. We need our Peter to tackle the day, but he's MIA in a major way. Peter Bellotti, where did you go? Left us hanging, don't you know? We're stuck here.
1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Quarterback dominoes falling all over the place. Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. So Matthew Stafford goes back to L.A., reunites with Sean McVay, happened around on Friday. So that means now a couple things, Pearl. You got teams who are definitely looking for QBs. And this is very good, I think, for a couple different people. First and foremost, Aaron Rodgers. Suddenly, Aaron Rodgers looking a little bit shinier, a little bit cooler, a little smoother, a little more like, there's not often we're going to get a 4-time MVP for as low as his stock might be right now. Hey, if we need a bridge guy, if we need someone to stabilize, something like that, you could do a lot worse than Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the biggest winner out of this, no doubt.
So, specifically, what teams do you think are changing their opinion on Aaron Rodgers because of this?
I think probably the two teams that were in hot pursuit of Stafford. I think the Giants, definitely, and I think maybe even the Raiders, although that feels like a lot of personalities. Brady, Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, and now to bring Aaron Rodgers in feels like some kind of football Mad Libs.
Well, the Raiders, the report I mentioned earlier in the show, Mike Silver said, who's really connected to them, that they're going to go after Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold. So it's a stew of average choices.
Well, here's the thing, though. Darnold, you may have to give some draft compensation if the Vikings decide to franchise tag
there's
him.
a lot of reports they won't do that.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then Russell Wilson, at least with Wilson and Rodgers, you don't have to give anything up,
Yeah, I mean, I think you started this off by Rodgers looks shinier. These are imperfect choices everywhere. I actually like Rodgers, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because Stafford was a 2-year, $100 million deal and a draft pick. Sam Darnold is going to be a multi-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
And Rodgers, what's the downside? You have one bad year.
A couple McAfee interviews, a couple of new conspiracy theories. I mean, again, I think Rodgers ends up being the big winner off of the Stafford news, but he's not the only one. I would also say the other big winner off of Stafford returning to L.A. has got to be the Tennessee Titans, if they really are taking phone calls about trading out of that number 1 pick. If this is all a smokescreen and they're taking Cam Ward, which, by the way, I would if I were Tennessee, but say they really are soliciting calls and they want some haul, well, Cam Ward has become the prize of the draft as far as quarterbacks are concerned. So now that Stafford is gone, if you're the Raiders, if you're the Jets, if you're the Giants even, and you think, all right, I got to trade up now, did that package of draft picks and future compensation and all that just get a whole lot bigger? That bundle could have gotten bigger because now Stafford's off the market.
I mean, yes, I understand what you're saying, but in reality, do you think it changes anything? Like, who are the teams that really want Cam Ward? I would think the Jets and the Titans are the hottest teams.
Well, why not the Raiders?
Yeah, it's funny. You're not hearing a lot of Raiders Cam Ward talk. Like, I don't think the Raiders are going to mortgage their future to go from 6 to 1 because that's a lot. That's 5
Big
spaces, and they need all those draft picks. The Giants, a little bit of a smaller jump, but they also need those draft picks. So I'm not sure. I think they were going for Stafford because they thought they weren't going to get Cam Ward. So I don't know if those teams. It feels to me for some reason Jets seem to love Cam Ward, and they haven't talked about any of these veterans. You notice that? And they just got rid of Rodgers, so I feel like they want the opposite of Rodgers, which is a young guy.
Well, you know what? It could be mutual admiration society between Cam Ward and the Jets. Here is the former Miami quarterback saying he thinks he fits very well with New York.
I know it would be elite, especially with the receiver core they have, the defense they have. Being able to talk with their head coach for the first time was exciting. And so, I think the Jets are, not too far off, maybe a couple pieces. I'm just hoping I can be one of them.
The delusion that every Jets person tells themselves. I'm just kidding. Are they a few pieces off? Yeah, a few dozen. No, I can't help it. But
Jesus.
I'm sorry. But here's a
look at Tennessee's roster before you say that, by the way.
So
you'd be
to be
like,
fair,
get me to the Jets.
Cam was very complimentary of the Titans also and the Giants also, and it'd be silly for him to say anything less. But listen, there could be something there. Again, I think Tennessee is the big winner, though. Along with Aaron Rodgers, Tennessee is the big winner with Matthew Stafford returning to the Rams because that number 1 pick just got a whole lot juicier, and Aaron Rodgers looks a lot better as a bridge QB.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if it changed anything for Cam Ward. I agree with you, by the way. The Titans need to take Cam Ward. Like, they cannot screw around with these draft picks. Unless they really, really, really are all in on Arch and can tank a year. I don't think tanking like that happens in the NFL. And maybe once the season starts and you're bad, but I don't think anyone like the Titans are looking at this and saying, well, we could pass on a quarterback and get a bunch of draft picks and plan for the future. Because if they go with Will Levis next year, that's just going to be very bad for the coach. I think they go 2-15 and he gets fired and like, where are you? You're ground zero again.
I mean, you have the number 1 pick this year. You've got to make the most of it. I don't think you can be looking at, are we going to be able to tank for next year? It's, that's hard to do. I mean, the Jags did it, but it's hard to do.
Well, and then it's funny, the Browns, Giants, Raiders, all of them, like, they're lost right now. This is a very bad spot to be in. I think you're going to see some teams entering the season with not huge expectations.
So it's funny because of all those teams, I mean, obviously the Giants, like Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, are clearly on the hot seat. So they have jobs that they're trying to save. For the Raiders, though, this is where it gets really interesting because I think that Pete Carroll and Tom Brady combination, Carroll coming out and saying, we're going to win now, and Tom Brady just being involved, I think has raised the expectation for Las Vegas. Now, I'm not saying that's right. But I think their actions are been designed to signal to the rest of the league, hey, we're going to try to be competitive this year.
Yeah.
And we're not just taking the year off and going to reset or try to get Arch Manning or whatever. And so I guess it's admirable. I have no idea how they're going to pull this off, though.
Well, I mean, they haven't really done anything in 24 years. I don't see why this would be any different.
Well, is it going to be Sam Darnold? Is it going to be hope and pray for Shedeur falls to you or you trade up? There's nothing obvious here, yet they continue to talk like they're going to be this really competitive team when you play in an outrageous division and you have no quarterback. And it's not like your defense is lights out. So I don't know what Raider fans want here. I think Shedeur is probably the best option, but then you have a rookie quarterback starting, Perloff. I don't know how you can be talking tough about winning right away when you're starting a rookie.
Well, he's old, though. He's 23. He's like Jaden Daniels. He's been around a lot, thrown a lot of passes. If I drafted Shedeur at 6, he's definitely a start right now guy.
Yeah.
Because he's older. And I think he's experienced enough that he'd be fine. And it's indoors. I like a lot about it. I would not go all in on Kirk Cousins, for example, and then have Shedeur sit behind him. Well, he doesn't need to do that. Might as well take his lumps. And the guy gets hit all the time. He's used to it at this point. Maybe that's not the healthiest thing, but he's played behind some bad O-lines. He'll be fine there. I think they'd be thrilled if Shedeur fell to number 6. I do think there's another option, though, which is go for a second-round quarterback. Maybe, if Jalen Milroe falls to them, some other solution. There's a lot of creative things to do here. I don't know why you would be focused on this year. If they're sending out that message, it's the wrong message because their win total is going to be 5.5 games. There's no way this team can pull a Washington. It's just not in the cards.
Let's hear from NFL insider Ian Rappaport, who was talking about Shedeur Sanders and the consensus on Shedeur. Well, there is no consensus.
Shedeur Sanders seems like he acquitted himself well in interviews this week, too. His overall knowledge was good. He, of course, has talked about the change in culture. He's had 2 different places, certainly in contention to be QB2, but I'm not sure that we are there yet.
Okay, not there yet that he's QB2. Not second, not number 2 to Cleveland, just QB2, Pearl. That it Cam Ward and that it could be someone else. Okay, so who else could that be? Here's Ian Rappaport about who teams are also impressed with.
Jackson Dart impressed teams as well, threw really nicely behind us. Quinn Ewers wasn't asked to do a ton in college. I know teams were sort of like wondering why. You can see the way he threw out there today. He's got the arm talent. He's also got the confidence. Maybe a little more of a quiet guy, but got the confidence.
Okay, more from Rappaport. QB2 position, so very much up in the air.
It seems to me to be more up in the air as far as who is QB2, who is QB3, and that process is going to shake out over the next couple weeks. Wouldn't be surprised to see another in the top 5. Wouldn't be surprised to see another there in the top 10. Still a long way to go.
I mean, this is how hard up the league is for quarterbacks. To me, this is not about the talent of the guys who are in this particular class. This is all about Stafford going back to the Raiders and taking a QB needy team off the board. Or excuse me, not taking a QB needy team off the board, and all about guys that are either about to lose their jobs and need quarterbacks, or this draft process falsely pushing dudes up in the draft. Like, you're gonna have another guy go top 10. Who out of this particular crop?
Well, I mean, it always happens, right? Like Baker Mayfield went from second rounder to first rounder in a month, so it's not unusual. But you say it's all. Why would Jackson Dart not be a first rounder? By the way, like what is it? What is it about Jackson Dart that design? I mean, stats are first rounder stats. You might say it was the Lane Kiffin offense. He obviously was the number one overall recruit. He's big. You saw him throw at the combine. He looks like a stud. So I think that sometimes maybe we underestimate the way NFL views quarterbacks. So I don't think it's necessarily the bad guys are getting pushed up, because I think a lot of these guys were as productive in college as anyone we saw last year. I mean, Jackson Dart and Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard won a title, for God's sake. I mean, what did J.J. McCarthy do that Will Howard didn't? So I think I don't necessarily agree with it that these are, you kind of imply that these are lesser quarterbacks that are getting pushed up by demand.
Yeah.
They're pretty, I mean, they're very successful guys.
So Jackson Dart's 6'2" and 2/8. So I don't think that's not huge.
Well, right, but it's, an inch taller than Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Okay, that's fine. But
6'2" and 2/8. Fine.
But he's not huge. Like, he's not a 6'4" quarterback or something like that.
Right,
You
right.
said he's got good size. I would say he's fine.
What's his weight?
223.
That's pretty good. I mean, still, he's much bigger than Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are going 1 and 2.
I'm just saying it's not John Elway back there. When you said he's got good size, I think people think of 6'5" quarterback, like a Tom Brady type. That's not true. But that's fine. I think that as far as Jackson Dart, I think that, yes, you look at the numbers, you see the offense that he ran, though, in college, which is not a pro style, not under center, which a lot of guys aren't, but apparently he was taking some snaps under center at the combine. And I think the more you watch him, the more that you can poke holes in, what he does, which is turnovers at end of games, not being smart with the football. I think that's something, how do you process the field, I would say, would be something I'd love to know about Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart was destructive in how he played at the end of the year against Florida, and the games against he beat Georgia once, but in the other games against Georgia and Alabama, he was horrendous.
He cost them a shot at the college football playoffs.
Yes.
I mean, you could say they all did.
Georgia.
They lost to Kentucky. I get that, but that Florida game, they win that game, and I think they're in. And he threw 2 picks at the end of the game that were just atrocious.
I mean, the guy threw 11 picks over the last 2 seasons. He's a pretty clean quarterback overall. I know what games you're trying. I totally understand. But also, he beat Georgia. I mean, how many guys come into the draft have ever beating Georgia?
I mean, Riley Leonard just beat Georgia. He didn't put up a lot of huge numbers in that game. It was a rainstorm.
It's very rare. I mean, they've
Georgia
lost,
Tech almost beat Georgia.
For these quarterbacks that are out there, there's only like 3 or 4 who've beaten Georgia. So anyway, but again, Jackson Dart, I don't have to squint too hard to say he's a high prospect. Top 10 would shock me. I would be totally surprised. There are a lot of guys here. I still think Milroe has a lot of fans. I think he didn't mention Jalen Milroe, but Jalen Milroe is clearly by far the best athlete amongst these quarterbacks. So he could be interesting I still think second round, but I think he's a very interesting possibility.
That's true. 855-212-4227. We're asking, what should the Raiders do at quarterback now that they really had their sights, I think, set on Matthew Stafford, and Stafford is now going back to the Rams. Sean is our pal in Oregon. Sean, you watching the combine? Do you like what you see?
I don't even watch the combine, brother. I'm gonna put stock down on that.
Okay.
They do these hand measurements. Well, does the football grow in the NFL? Isn't it the same size in college? If you can hang on to the ball in college, you can probably hang on to it in the pros. And then they check these, how fast these guys are. I like having a fast guy on my team, but I don't know how many times the fastest guy at the combine ended up being the number 1 wide receiver. I care how tough you are, how you run your routes, and can you break tackles after you catch the ball. Throw these guys some grease pigs. That's what I'd like to see at the combine. Grease up a football and see how they catch that. That's what I'd like to see, bro.
Sean, maybe we should expand the types of drills that we see at the combine. Thank you for the call. Sean always thinking outside the box. Maybe they should, they do the wet ball drills.
Yeah.
Maybe they should soak a couple of the balls, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Simulate the elements is what I meant to say.
No, it'd be cool, actually, if you put on pads and jerseys and you line up 10 other guys around the quarterback and put 11 on the other side and maybe play a full game. It's called the tape. They do that. They don't need to simulate. They have tons and tons of games of watching these guys. So I understand, because I've heard that argument. Simulate real games. Why? You have real games on tape.
I know, but it'd be kind of fun. Grease up the football a little bit. Let's get weird.
Yeah, I mean, the guys don't want to work out now.
Just like a mud pit somewhere, offensive lineman versus defensive lineman, something like that. I don't know. I think Sean's right. Listen, if you're not asking these questions, what are you doing? And he's right about some of the straight line speed. I don't know. For the quarterbacks, I don't think it matters at all.
No, I mean, the NFL guys say it shows explosiveness. So that lineman who ran a 4.9 out of Missouri is definitely going high. I usually thought it was overrated, but then the Eagles started really taking fast 40s. And Quayon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were superstars at this time last year. The Eagles took both of them. So now I'm starting to think maybe that does mean something. I mean, you don't want a guy who gets a 5.5 at play wide receiver like I would. What's your time?
I think I was a 5.56, something like that. I have a very upright running style, though. And I didn't get a chance to go twice, so I only had one unofficial time as opposed to two.
All right, we got to look that up in the Combine database.
I think I was a 5.56 in Las Vegas. I think that Kansas City, I ran a little bit slower.
I know my speed from second to third base is very slow.
EJ.
I didn't make it.
Yeah, that put you out for a little bit.
Yes, it did.
Luckily, there were no stopwatches and no cameras for that.
Well, there were cameras. Luckily, people got me kicking the ball, not me running the bases.
Yeah, that's true. I hate to even tell you this. So obviously, EJ tore his patella tendon in two different spots, tore up your knee in two different spots when we were playing a charity kickball game in the suburbs of New Jersey last summer. I wish that was a joke. That was all too serious. But do you guys, if you have an iPhone, do you know how they'll make like photo galleries for you?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So for some reason, my iPhone is making me photo galleries of like me and my family, me and my kid, me and my husband. And then always the last photo is a picture of EJ on the bleachers that day. I don't know why. It's always the ending photo. I'm like, and there's sad EJ.
Me smiling through the pain. Deion Dawkins is like, it'll be okay, buddy.
And I'm like,
I wonder why.
I'm like, I'm going to take a photo of this just like when we can all laugh about this someday. I'll have the photo, right? Like I didn't post it or anything, but I just have it. And it's always the last slide of my photo album.
Was it because Lucas and Andy are in it? Like
I think they were there that day.
I'm sure maybe that's why. Maybe if they figure, well, your family was in the area.
Yeah,
so
right.
This random black man with a bad knee is also part of your family.
It's just such a great dismount off of the photo gallery. But it makes me feel bad because I get reminded of that bad day.
I don't feel that bad. Shouldn't have stolen third. I mean, why did you need third base? There was only one out.
We could not score any runs.
I know what you're saying, but
we had to manufacture something, and I manufactured a torn patella tendon.
Trying to make a play.
There you go.
Man, I saw Deion Dawkins at the Super Bowl, and he goes, "I know you." I was like, "Yes, you do know me. You do know me." A very memorable moment at your kickball tournament. 855-212-4227. What should the Raiders do at quarterback is the question we are asking you. Coming up next, let's dive into the Cowboys. Where's Jerry? Anyone? Try to answer that next. Soak a couple of the balls.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, welcome back, Maggie and Perloff. You know what that music means, Cowboy Quickie. So, Maggie, what have the Dallas Cowboys been up to during Combine Week?
I mean, hell if I know. Jerry didn't talk. Now let that sink in.
Really?
Jerry Jones did not speak to the media, Pro, when he had multiple opportunities. Didn't stop in the hallways. No, I don't know if he ever does the podium, but did not do any of the channels that you could normally do.
Be selectively aggressive.
To get the message out there. I'm flabbergasted. I mean, this is Jerry's thing.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I did read a little bit about the Cowboys this weekend, and I saw them get dunked on a little bit.
And what? For what?
So there was a
For
report
what
on,
now?
There was a report on Friday. They were offering defensive tackle Oso Digwaza. I probably mispronounced that. In fact, I'm sure.
Bogusch
21 million. Odigizua,
Yeah.
sorry. $21 million a year. And I was like, $21 million a year? That makes him like the 14th highest non-quarterback in the entire NFL. Now they're going to franchise tag him at $25 million a year. Why do they let these guys get... First of all, who is this guy? He's never been to a Pro Bowl, and he's going to get $25 million a year at a position that doesn't pay that much? To me, I was like, oh, God, the Cowboys once again let a guy get to the end of their contract and are going to pay through the nose. This can't be good. Like, it seems, once again, they have no idea what they're doing.
Well, I think they definitely have a blind spot on their own guys that they draft.
Yep.
And I think they're incredibly loyal to those guys. And I think they would also say, how can we let people who are run stuffers get out of the building when this is clearly one of the biggest issues that the Cowboys have is not being able to stop the run. But
that's a guy who's been there trying to stop the run.
Well, I get it, but you're going to have to add pieces around him, but do you not let pieces like that go?
I just thought it was funny. I'm like, I think $25 million a year for a defensive tackle, like he better be Jalen Carter. And I just don't see the way the Cowboys play defense. So all the Cowboys fans were like, oh, my God, Jerry, you're going to pay this guy? You go all in. You're not going to pay $8 million for Derrick Henry, but you're going to give this guy all this money? So it feels like the Cowboys, to your point, are lost. Like, I'm not hearing a lot of confidence heading into free agency because they screwed up so bad last year.
That's your Cowboy Quickie.
And there's a report, right, that they're starting to talk to Micah Parsons.
Yep.
Does anyone have any faith that they'll handle this the right way?
I mean, what's the right way? Now it's just paying him.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yes, except when will they pay him?
Well, I said mark it down 3 days before the season starts. That's
Is that
when they sign
September or
everybody.
August? Is that late August or September?
I don't know. But I think the Jerry not talking is really significant. And maybe he was sick or maybe, whatever. But he just never passes up these opportunities like a drug to him, the cameras.
All in.
But was he at the combine?
Yeah. No, reporters saw him. How about this? He was dressed in a black jacket, black hat, and sunglasses like a famous actor leaving Nobu, Malibu, according to The Athletic. Also declined to talk while leaving the team's hotel Saturday morning, adding he would speak to reporters when he gets back to Dallas.
So what do you think it means?
I don't know. I'm just noticing it.
Why?
I'm not the only person who noticed it, obviously.
Why?
Because it is a break from tradition. I guess he normally has people go on the
bus.
Jerry bus in Indy and they chit-chat.
Yeah,
so
the Johnny
something was different
Walker's
this
flowing
time.
on the bus.
Yeah.
We've covered combines before. Bogusch and I don't know, or Perloff and I, excuse me. The bus is parked right outside of Lucas Oil Stadium with a big fat star on it.
I think he was trying to get some big time business done. And he was like, I'm not saying nothing until I either get it done or don't.
So he doesn't trust himself to not say anything.
Right.
You mean like league business or player business?
Player business. Or team business. Well,
There's no player business.
Well, the rumors were they were calling Tennessee.
That's
I saw that.
That's what 105.1 was saying in Dallas. Shout out to them. Or 105.2, maybe?
3.
Sorry. 3.
Yeah,
7.
I saw
Strike
that.
1, strike 2.
7, 8, 9.
The Fan in Dallas.
Yeah,
Explain to me
love them.
in a million years how that
It's their
happen.
fault. There's a guy named SHAN, and it's not Sean. It's Sean, not Shan. They're all over the place.
And I
Don't
love
worry
Zach
about it.
too, who's in the afternoon. He's my guy.
Dallas.
Those guys. But yeah, no, I mean that. So like, look, it's a pipe dream. I'm not saying they could have done it. I'm just saying like that's what was being said. So if you're trying to make a deal like that, maybe you're like, hey, let's maybe not open our mouths this weekend.
Here we go!
Yeah, I mean, you could have said that 25 times during Jerry's tenure, and he still finds the camera. Interesting stuff. All right, quickly, John is in Boise, wants to weigh in on quarterbacks that we saw in this class. What's up, John?
Hey, so, hand size, speed, all that is great. But I think one thing teams need to look at is a quarterback in college's passer rating versus the blitz. Because Daniel Jones had the lowest passer rating versus the blitz and the lowest touchdown to interception ratio in the history of college football, where Jaden Daniels had the highest passer rating and the highest touchdown to interception ratio versus the blitz out of any quarterback that's ever played in college football. So I think that is, something that teams need to look at instead of, how high they can jump, how fast they can run.
Yeah, some information that Dave Gettleman could have used a couple of years ago, John, who selected Daniel Jones back then. Thank you for that. Passer rating versus the blitz.
Yeah, I like it.
It's smart. But here's the thing. What I was always told about passer rating versus the blitz, you know who has like one of the highest in the league?
Who's that?
As far as current quarterbacks? Derek Carr. Always has this incredible passer rating versus the blitz, and he hasn't won diddly squat.
He's got an incredible passer rating all the time. He's sick when he's on the field.
Can't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, but he did. He took the then Oakland Raiders were a 13-3 record. It's an all-time achievement. Yeah, he gets hurt a lot. Who's really good against the blitz? Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is also good against the blitz.
That's I love that piece of analysis because you have to make a quick mental decision against the blitz, and that's what you can't measure in shorts is how these guys process. So it's a really good point. I wonder if that plays out long term. Now, also, too, you got to have, when you make that call to our show, it'd be nice if you had Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders stats against the blitz.
Well, he's not a research team.
Well, it'd be
John's
nice. Now we have to look that up.
Oh.
Well, he had a very well thought out point. He was on hold. He could have Googled that.
Do more for us, is what Perloff is saying.
Yeah,
John, that's not your job.
No, I agree with John Boys. Just give us the actual pass.
You want to know Cam Ward's stats against the blitz? At least midway through last season, he was first in touchdowns, second in passing yards, and second in completions.
McMuffin or something like that.
Yeah. At Miami, ACC, the
this
nation?
was at Miami.
No. Who first and second in what? The league or the nation?
This was the country, I believe. This is according to PFF. This was midway through the season. They are now later in the year. Again, his numbers ended up being 69% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 3 picks, a passer rating of 130.2. Shedeur Sanders' numbers also are really good. 68% completion percentage, 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 picks. 181 QB rating.
That's a good sign.
Pretty good.
But by the way, just here, Cam Ward's overall rating was 172.2 last year. So it's pretty good against a non-blitz as well. What about the non-blitz? You ever think about that, John and Boise?
Actually, kind of, to be honest, when he mentioned that point, I kind of thought, to me, I'd like to see how you are under pressure with a 4-man rush. Because, the problem with the Chiefs was that they were Eagles were bringing 4, and not even Mahomes was able to do anything. We've seen Tom Brady struggle when teams bring 4 men or even 3 men to get pressure. What is your stats when you have to actually read a defense and there's 4 guys at you and they're still under pressure?
You know who I think is really good against the blitz? Double check. I think Sam Darnold kills the blitz. You have to check that one, too. You're right. It's deceiving. But I thought we had a cheat code here, and now you guys are ruining it. The number against the blitz. I've always looked for that cheat code, a quarterback. If you could have that one number that shows you something, it'd be really helpful. It's definitely not the 40. Quarterbacks does not matter, right?
No, definitely not. Did you also, speaking of, numbers, did you see that the Raiders are shoring up their analytics department?
No.
Yeah. Apparently they've been lacking. And now John Spytek, new man in charge, got to put some more numbers to this thing.
Can't hurt.
Good luck.
Yeah, anything, they can use anything at this point, right? More numbers, more letters. You want to go into hieroglyphics.
Gonna say, does anyone speak Latin? Bogusch has headlines for us. What's up, dude?
Anthony Edwards scored 44 as T-Wolves won in Phoenix, 116-98. A good night that almost ended badly.
And now 21 turns. Uh-oh. Showtime! Oh! Did he hit his head? I think he hit his head on the side of the backboard. Beal fouled him and went airborne. And from our angle, it looked like we were blocked, okay? But I think that Beal hit him in mid-flight.
Mark Jones on ESPN. Final 100 seconds of this game. Dante DiVincenzo bouncing the ball up for Edwards to slam it in. But Bradley Beal did give Edwards a mild shove while he was in midair. So the ball goes out of bounds. Edwards almost crashing the backboard. And then he falls to the court, avoiding any injury, thankfully. Edwards' composure has been an issue, but not in this moment, which head coach Chris Finch appreciated.
To me, it was a clear flagrant, and for it to be a no call, then, obviously you could see kind of the bewilderment, but, he's going to have to keep working on it.
Yeah, as he mentioned, this was a nasty decision by Beal, and somehow all 3 officials didn't call a foul. They were giving the ball to Phoenix out of bounds until
disagree.
review.
First, a couple things. Strong disagree. It was not a flagrant foul.
100%.
You can't push a guy when he's in midair.
Dude, you can't do a dunk contest move in the middle of a game. The T-Wolves were trying to embarrass the Suns. That was
You
ridiculous.
love Vince Carter. Of course you can do a
The
dunk
guy
contest
threw
in the
the
middle
ball
of
on
the
the
game.
ground. They almost brought a Kia onto the court. It was ridiculous.
Well, when you're up by 30, you
it
can
was
do
a totally
something like that.
tacky move to show up, and he barely pushed him with two arms. He didn't punch him in the stomach.
That was super dangerous.
Super dangerous.
Maybe it was dangerous, but it was a light shove. You guys are totally characterizing it the
What
wrong
do you
way.
play in prison rules? I mean, sheesh.
You can't do what they did.
What are you, Maggie, asking for violence here?
Honestly, the team should have gone after that play. You should have gone to fight. Like
I thought both teams should have fought. I thought the T-Wolves should have fought Beal for doing that to Edwards, and I had
the
no
Suns
problem.
should have fought the T-Wolves.
Suns should fight the Suns for being so bad at
I was
basketball.
going to say, what Suns is? They're fighting nobody. They don't care. They want the season to end yesterday. I need to see something bloody.
The move that Dante DiVincenzo went was over the top. If that happened, like you're a coach, you have to say fight that team. You have no choice.
I know, but the Suns, nobody cares anymore on the Suns.
Maybe so.
Like, Kevin Durant called them embarrassing, which is hilarious to me about Durant because I don't recall him saying. He said, we played embarrassing. The fans should be embarrassed, but never said, and I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I think he did say, I want us to play better, I think he said.
Oh, cool.
Something along. It was a passive way where he did mention that, like, we need to play better.
I just feel like he's always the wrong messenger, which is weird or not the wrong messenger. He's so good. He should clearly be the messenger. And I think when the big moment comes, he's not capable of delivering the message to the team.
It feels like when things go wrong with teams he's on, it feels like things happen to him, not him contributing to it.
I think he starts looking around like, I can't wait. I'm going to jump ship and just get out of here.
Right. And I think that's why people think of Durant the way they do.
Yeah.
I still can't believe Perloff thinks that was not a play.
I watched it again. It is so soft. First of all,
no, but
in one motion he pushes him down. He's reaching his hand out to help him up, and he does help him up immediately.
No, because I think he realized that was a bad play.
Yeah.
Like Anthony Edwards, maybe he doesn't want to be the face of the NBA, but he's an important piece of the NBA. He could have gotten seriously hurt. You don't hit that guy that
don't
far.
bounce the ball in midair for an alley-oop dunk. They weren't even open. There were four Suns around the play. It was ridiculously over the top dunk contest move. Honestly, if I'm a coach, I would say just flat out brawl. That was a move to show up the Suns.
Coach,
you're right. The Suns don't care, but this was an occasion where you don't let a team do that to you.
Coach, you should have had the team playing a little bit better in the 15 minutes prior to that. Why are you showing fight so late in the game? How about you show some fight in the third quarter when the game's still in reach?
First of all, it was 112-93. In the NBA, that's a nail-biter these days. So, I don't know. They lost the game to the T-Wolves. A lot of teams lose. You don't
Fourth quarter was embarrassing. You don't get not trying.
You don't get dunk contested on. You have to do that as a player.
Okay, so then hammer him. He didn't even hammer. So in typical Suns fashion, he half-assed it.
Yeah,
if you want to punish him, knock him down instead of just like this weird, like in the middle ground shove that was just dangerous, but also not like straight on felony assault.
Yeah, you got to grab him before he gets in the air.
Yeah, catch him.
Yeah, you say, "Oh, you're not doing this," and you grab him, and then I had no problem. To be clear, I have zero problem with Beal taking a shot at Edwards. The issue is Edwards' head is above the rim. He has a 43 inch vertical, and even the softest touch at that point can flip him over his head. Like, it was an extremely dangerous play, and he's taking his hand out like, "Oh, sorry, bro." Like, no, you could have seriously injured him.
I don't know. I think you're maybe overstating the danger aspect. I mean, Edwards barely even fell. He got right up.
Well, that's
he barely
lucky.
fell from 11 feet in the air.
What else you got, Bogusch?
We got Luka Doncic, 29 points, 9 assists. The Lakers won again, 108-102 over the Clippers. That's 6 in a row, 16 of 19 for L.A. The Thunder outscored the Spurs, 146-132. A career-high 41 from Jalen Williams, plus 31 from Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And Manny's favorite team won as well.
Three-pointer for the lead. He got it! Jalen Brunson puts the Knicks in front.
Tyler Murray, MSG TV. Jalen Brunson with 31. His Knicks needed overtime to finally beat the struggling Heat, 116-112. Miami's lost 3 of 5 and 7 of 10.
Finally beat the Heat, huh?
Yeah, to finally beat them.
Yeah, I hope you have an ingrown nail later.
I have actually a split cuticle driving me nuts. But I'd still be the Heat by
you deserve it.
In regulation.
They don't ask how they did it, just how many.
The Jets said to be taking calls on Davante Adams right now, but releasing him is more likely than a trade since Adams has a $38 million cap hit for next season, and no one will want to put that on their docket. On the ice last night, Wyatt Johnston, a hat trick, and the Stars' 6-3 home win over the Blues. The Devils lost in Vegas 2-0, plus stud center Jack Hughes left early with an apparent right shoulder injury. And Alex Palau won the IndyCar opener in St. Petersburg, Florida yesterday. Teammate Scott Dixon finished second, but Dixon and the team say he would have won the race had his radio been working at all. Apparently, he works for Odyssey. His crew heard him on occasion, but Dixon never heard them and still drove an entire race and almost won it.
It's pretty amazing to do that with no communication whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, I leave my phone in the car when I go to run an errand. I'm like, oh God, something is very off right now. Let alone 4 hours in a race car.
Yeah, and there's a lot of strategy of pit stops, and this guy's coming behind you, and let's whatever. There's a crash in turn 3, and he's just basically driving blind at 275 miles an hour.
That was a street course too, in the streets of St. Petersburg.
I know. I've been down there to see that race. I got into an IndyCar with Mario Andretti.
Name drop.
I know.
Seriously.
It was very scary.
Lehigh Valley's finest, by the way.
Yeah. They said there's no safer place you can be than in an IndyCar with Mario Andretti. I was like, that's false. I could be in my bed. I could be back at the hotel. I could be anywhere.
There are probably jungles that are safer than...
I could be ziplining in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he's a legend, but, he took off his helmet so I could meet him, and he was like 80.
My wife had 7 injuries. She got kicked by a horse. Mario Andretti's from Lehigh Valley? Is that what you
That's what I was thinking, man.
Yeah, he's from Nazareth. It's a big deal.
Mario Andretti?
The whole family.
The family is.
Yeah.
I thought Mario Andretti was from, Milan or something.
He was from Italy. I honestly had no idea.
But once upon a time, I'm sure their family.
There's a broken down, not up to the code, racetrack in Nazareth that they, owned and they ran and, they were the best at. It's a big thing.
What's it now, haunted?
No, it's just a deserted, fenced off thing, and you're like, what is this big field? And you can't even really see it because of the angle where it's at.
Sure.
You're like, what is this big field that's just?
Come on, Mario, restore your community.
Yeah,
brother.
I mean, I'm like, yo, this would be dope. We had another racetrack back in the neighborhood. I was actually hoping they would open back up.
I mean, he's got now his son, grandson. They're all in it. It doesn't have to be all on Mario.
Oh, okay. Well, then how about
Marco?
All of the Andrettis. Marco Belletti, Marco Andretti. I don't care. Somebody
Marco
chip
Belletti,
in.
update anchor? I know. I can't believe Marco Belletti didn't get on that.
Marco Belletti is a race car driver who would be quite interesting.
Never liked that Marco Belletti.
Doesn't fit the profile.
No, definitely not.
Okay. Bogusch, thank you. Lots to do, including the last person. Person.
I just pictured Marco in a flannel shirt and a Yankee hat climbing into it.
No helmet.
Suit, no helmet. Marco just in his Metallica T-shirt with the Yankee hat, just complaining.
Are those flammable? Those
Yes.
Marco's the best. Oh, I miss him.
I know. He's awesome.
Okay. Lots to do, including the last person I ever thought we'd see in this headline. The last. 1,000 guesses when it got to this person. I'll tell you about it next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. You could have given me 1,000 guesses, and I would not have arrived at the headline that I saw over the weekend.
Jeez, 1,000.
1,000 guesses. I did not realize that because the Giants so royally screwed up off-season Hard Knocks that no other NFL team will now allow the franchise to do a version of off-season. Everyone said no. Every single one passed. So who decided to take up the torch for off-season Hard Knocks, Perloff? Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels. And the reason why you could have given me 1,000 guesses is because this was the guy who never did Hard Knocks when he was actually with the New England Patriots.
That's true.
We never got to see anything behind the curtain. Nothing. We couldn't even get a sniff. And now, first year at North Carolina, open the doors, HBO, come on in.
Well, I don't. Yeah, it's weird. Also, what is an off-season college? What does that mean? There is no off. I mean, they don't have like free agency and the draft.
Well, you got the transfer portal, and you got in-home recruiting visits and stuff like that. I'm excited to watch it.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Bill Belichick could have some editorial control over this. They let the teams have a certain amount of control. So is Bill just going to put the kibosh on anything that's actually interesting and cool?
But okay, so they've been filming all along. Right?
I have to imagine they've already been filming quite a bit. Who is this Bill Belichick who loves the cameras? I mean, it's like he was on every media outlet you could possibly be on in his last season away from coaching. And now Hard Knocks? Is this his girlfriend? Is she like, no, you should really do this? I don't know. Is Hard Knocks, in with the 24-year-old crowd?
Oh, definitely not.
I don't know. I don't know, Manny, is it Hard Knocks, young people?
Not a chance.
Okay.
Hard Knocks is that is a relic of the past. Obviously, in an era where everything's on TikTok and Instagram, the fact that HBO still sticks cameras around the franchises is ridiculous.
I don't know. I mean, the Giants definitely made a lot of headlines in the worst way possible.
I think it is good for spouses. Like I feel like we saw a lot about I feel like Kyle Juszczyk's wife became a big deal on wide receivers.
George Kittle's wife.
George Kittle's wife became
Well, that was Netflix too.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
but
different
same
breed,
kind
but
of thing,
same
though.
deal.
Yeah.
I feel like it's.
Oh,
Netflix-
she's going to be on this thing, the girlfriend.
Netflix does it a little differently though. Like they're a little more. I don't know what those are cooler. For some reason, if you told me a Netflix doc, I would have been like the show Quarterback One and all that stuff. I would have been more into it. The Hard Knocks feels kind of like a old school, curated, a lot of sprinklers.
Yeah. Well, that's that's training camp, right? This one is going to be a little bit different. I'd like to see, Belichick going into a recruiting visit. That's kind of cool. Go into someone's, living room and.
I guess that's kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a smart move because colleges have to market themselves. Like NFL teams have a salary cap. They don't care about any of that. So it makes sense. I still think this whole North Carolina thing is going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I don't think they're going to be that good immediately. So he's got this Hard Knocks.
You are on that subject.
He's gonna if they do this Hard Knocks and they end up 4-8, won't that look bad?
I think you get the first year. Little like with Deion in Colorado, I think you have somebody who's going in. Well, Deion already was a coach, but I think you get a little bit of a grace period. Maybe win 1 or 2 games you're not supposed to win. People get excited about it, and then it's whatever year 2.
Yeah, I mean, you're
so?
right. They are in the ACC. I mean, if you can walk and chew gum, you can win 9 games. So,
jeez, bro.
I mean, let's be realistic. Although Duke is supposed to be really good now. Generally, though, you're right. He has a good chance here, but I don't think they give him much time. He's 72. I don't know if you get a year. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure immediately. And this adds to it. That's my point. Basically, he's setting himself up like, okay, we better be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, the bar is going to be pretty high, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. I can see that. I guess, like, you're saying
higher.
North Carolina's not going to give him a lot of time? North Carolina will give him all the time in the world. This is huge for them.
He's 72. How much time? I don't think so. I think there's pressure immediately. As you get higher and higher profile, I think it adds to it immediately. And North Carolina, I hear what you're saying. North Carolina gave Mac Brown forever, but he won a lot of games. I think the public will be all over him if he's bad. Kind of like Deion. Deion, when it was good, it was great. When it was bad, it was bad. You get a lot more attention for either direction.
Yeah, that's true. Belichick is polarizing. There's a lot of people still, think he was a cheater and, cutting corners and fast and loose with the rule book and stuff like that.
So let me ask another question. Is Bill Belichick going into living rooms? I can't find. I know Deion will not go into a living room anymore.
No, Belichick is.
He is.
Yep.
And is that still a thing in college football anymore? Does anybody want to go into? Isn't the whole thing the transfer portal? Isn't that the whole game now? That's what I'm curious to see. What percentage of their energy goes in the transfer portal? What goes into the recruits?
Well, I think it's got like the NFL. I think a lot of it's the draft, and then you supplement with free agency. I think in football, you still have to recruit out of high school. I really do think that.
Yeah,
I think in basketball, you don't have to anymore.
I'm not
Rick
sure.
Pitino said, he's like, I'm not going into high schools. I'm not recruiting high school. I'm just going in the transfer portal, but I only need 12 guys, 15.
I'm just thinking of quarterback. I mean, obviously, quarterback, almost everybody transferred now. Basically, how many quarterbacks are in this draft and how many transferred?
Oh, all of them.
I think all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Milroe never transferred.
You're right about that.
So generally, though, I wonder, especially, here's the thing. Like, Deion had to win immediately. Bill Belichick.
Did he have to win immediately? They won 4 games, and it was lauded as a success.
Well, there was a lot of pressure on him.
Colorado was also in the tank.
Deion might have done that.
1 game the year before.
Deion might have done that to himself, where he had a lot of pressure to win immediately. I think Belichick has a ton of pressure.
And Hard Knocks definitely will ratchet it up.
Yeah,
You're not going to
that's
watch
what I'm
this.
saying.
You are going to watch this.
I'll probably watch it, but he's a Hall of Fame coach. Again, Hard Knocks, look what happened to the Giants. It looked good at the time until Saquon ran for 2,000 yards.
They're taking a risk here. one I can't wait to watch. Thank you to EJ Stewart. Thank you to Manny Rodriguez, Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan, Chris Rose, who joined us from Indianapolis, where he was anchoring NFL Network's Scouting Combine coverage. Thank you to the Weedos and the Coffee Drinkers. You guys on the phones are fantastic. We'll see you tomorrow.
You're in a 5-minute break.